We've got Bill Cronan here. We've got Mike Luccini. And Bill, just in talking to you last year on the podcast, it seems like you've got more fishing stories and experiences than it seems possible to fit into a single lifetime.
And he goes, why didn't you just swim around the front of the rock and let the water wash you up on the rock? I go, that's what it did, but it took me like 10 minutes to figure it out, right?
The most fun you ever had in your life, and you still got your pants on.
I'm like all proud. I go over to the cooler and I'm like, oh, wait till he sees this thing. He goes, that's the biggest friggin' embarrassment I ever seen in my life.
Welcome to another episode of the On the Water podcast. Beautiful.
Let's go!
If you own a boat, whether it's a sport fish, a charter vessel, or a commercial rig, your insurance should be as reliable as your gear. That's where Lambros Insurance comes in, specializing in marine coverage for yachts, charter boats, commercial vessels, and marinas. We understand the water because we live it. Dean Lambros isn't just an insurance pro. He's a seasoned captain with years on the water. Protect your boat, your business, and your passion with a policy that actually fits. Visit LambrosInsurance.com or call Dean directly, 203-644-4044, and get covered by someone who speaks your language.
We've got Bill Cronan here. He came last year, did some storytelling with us last summer. And Bill, just in talking to you last year on the podcast, in talking to you on the phone, it seems like you've got more fishing stories and experiences than it seems possible to fit into a single lifetime. And we appreciate you coming back and sharing more of that with us. We've got Mike Luccini. Mike, I know you through social media.
Mm-hmm.
From before Instagram, going back to the message board days. Used to follow from Back Beach.
Stripebass.com.
Yep, from stripebass.com. And I was jealous of your surf fishing exploits then. I'm jealous of your largemouth bass exploits now. And looking forward to talking to you guys. And of course, we've got Anthony DeCicci. He's nothing special about him. And
I always know when to transition based on his largemouth post. I'm like, all right, it's jerkbait season. He's crushing monsters.
It is. You've cost me, Mike. hundreds of dollars in Vision 110s because I'm like, I need to buy more and I need to get that color.
You should see my garage.
That's his secret weapon right there, black and gold.
I grew up, I was fishing from the time I could stand up. Like, I'll tell you the quick story. I go to get my tonsils out. I'm like 5 years old. And my father's like, I'm going to get you a fishing rod when we get back from the hospital. And he goes, you can check that out. And I was already excited about it. So long story short, I get the Zebco 202 with the bobber. And we had a summer house in Bellingham on Lake Hiawatha. And I'm this little piss pot. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to be a fisherman. I want to catch fish, blah, blah, blah. So all I remember is going to the pond with the bobber and maybe a shiner on the end of it and casting the rod out. And then I engaged the reel and I laid it down on the dock. And a couple minutes later, the bobber goes under and takes straight off of the middle of the pond with my rod behind it. So I'm bawling my eyes out, and then every couple of minutes, you could see the bobber pop up with the rod dragging behind the bobber. And I knew from that day on, I was like, you son of a bitches, I'm going to get even with you. You multi-speed. Like, from that day, I was just totally like jammed up, fishing.
Take my frustrations on every species that swims.
Absolutely.
It's a great fishing origin story.
Yeah, that's how I get into it. And then I watched, my grandfather got me into it initially. He used to go to the Vineyard Derby every year. And they had pictures on the mantle of like big stripers, big bluefish. I believe he caught a teen size weak fish. I think back in the days you could get big weak fish off the surf.
There were a few years in there, and I think it was when they took striped bass out initially in the 80s, they put weak fish in their place. And there were years where, like you said, in Reading the Water by Robert Post, there was a chapter where they talked about on the vineyard in the summer. They said you could hear them croaking, like it was a weak fish. They're in the drum family. They said they would chase the silver sides up onto the beach. I think he said dogfish bar. I don't know the vineyard that well, but catching them on the small broken back red fins. But.
Yeah, they caught all kinds of species, and then I would see the pictures on the mantle, and I was like, when I'm big enough, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to be just like him. And we used to rent a house. He used to rent a house in Harwichport every year and we go there for the first 2 weeks of July. And we go off the jetty, catching flounder and all the small stuff. And then finally one year, the bluefish came in off the jetty. That was like my first taste of like a big, strong fish. I was probably 10 or 12 years old. And I was like I said, I was beyond hooked on it. That's all I thought about. On the country club, I would go out in the woods and I'd pick the golf balls up that the members would hit into the woods. And I put them in egg cartons. And I'd get a couple holes ahead of them. I see a group of people coming. I'd go sit down with my 5-gallon pail and I'd flip it upside down and I'd open the box up. They'd be, oh, you got a couple Titleists in there? What do you want for those? I go, 50 cents a piece, like $6 a dozen for the golf balls. And then I would take the cash and I would go right over to Ernie Delcart's on Pleasant Street and I would buy fishing tackle with it. Rods, reels, line, like
Pulling their balls right off the fairway and
Absolutely.
throwing them in your cart. And hey, I don't know, it took a bad bounce.
And I had buckets
50 cents,
of them.
kick
that
it
was
in.
that was my income from my hobby from an early age. And then I'll tell you a little bit about how we got to know each other. He probably remembers the details of the old days better than I do, and I'll let him talk about that. But you know what happens? You have old friends, and you do a lot of things together. You get tight, and then things happen. You know, I get married, you have kids. He moved to Florida, and you don't see each other for a while, but the bond is always there. So
You got that right. It comes right back.
it
don't
comes
it?
back like it never left. So I'm out on the golf course one day. This is probably like 5 years ago. And I see the phone ring, and I just knew it was like one of those. Usually you see the phone ring, and you're like, I'm not picking this up. If I ever telemarket or something, screw this, right? And I see the number, and I think it was a Florida extension,
813.
813. It's him. So I pick the phone up, and there's like silence on the end. You know how he speaks. He pauses. Mike Luccini. Bill Cronan. How you doing? Long time no see, buddy. Right? So I'm like, Bill, oh my God, dude. It's been so long. And we're like, so I think we probably spent 3 hours on the phone.
About that,
That was even
maybe
an
more.
exaggeration, talking about
Yeah.
mostly fishing, you know, life exploits and fishing and this and that and everything else. So he's like, and I told him about I could tell you, just levels of my brother. My brother's an outstanding fisherman too, freshwater bass, tournament fisherman. He's got a 25-foot Parker. I mean, when I tell you he knows every rock, every bubbleweed, every crab from Point Judith to Westerly to Block Island, and I'm telling him, he's like, when I come back up next year, I got to come out with you guys. So anyways, I call my brother up, and I'm like, hey, I got an old friend of mine coming up. I grew up with him fishing on the Cape, Bill Cronan. I'm like, this guy's, he's legit. I'm telling my brother, because he's not going to take just anybody out on the boat. He goes, if you say he's legit, he's legit. He's good to go. So you come up in July, I think.
Yeah.
And we're going to go out striped bass fishing on the Southwest Ledge. It's like prime time right now. There's big, gigantic fish out there in good quantities. So my brother calls me up and he's like, I want you guys at the dock tomorrow morning, 4:30. Don't be a minute late. You know, and I know he won't be. I call him the night before, and he goes, I'll be there at 3 o'clock. I'll be the first one there. I'll be in the parking lot when he gets there, right? He goes, I'm ready to go. He goes, I'm really excited about this trip. So, 3:30, I went out the night before, which was a huge mistake. Way too, when I'm talking, he'll maybe even talk a little bit about it. I was beyond just destroyed. I almost couldn't get myself out of bed. So I wake up, it's 3:30, and I'm like, oh my God, they're going to leave.
I would
without-
never
oh my
divulge
God.
this story, but you got to go, so keep going.
So I have nothing ready. I have nothing to eat. I have no clothes. I have no nothing. I don't even know what day it is. And I get downstairs. I'm scurrying around in the garage and putting everything. Okay, I need a cooler. I'm going to definitely need water today. Water, this, that, and everything else. And then I get on the road, and I'm driving down 95 through Providence, and the phone rings, and it's my brother. Where the F are you? I go, I'm on the highway. Where on the highway? Providence. Jesus Christ. What's the matter with you? We're leaving. I go, where's Bill? And he was away from Bill in the parking lot, and he's like, he was here at 3 o'clock when I pulled in. And he's like, this guy is remarkable. He goes, we've been talking about fishing for the last 2 hours. Like, he's like unbelievable. He's like everything that you could have hoped for somebody to go out on the water with, right? So I finally get there. The boat's running. They're on the boat. The ropes are untied. And I'm like staggering down. I'm like, throw all my crap in the boat. And he's like, it's going to be blowing a little today. We're going to go over to the southwest ledge. He goes, it's like a 2 to 4 foot chop. He goes, we're in a Parker, which it's a fantastic boat when it's calm, but going into 2 to 4 footers, 2 to 5 footers. So listen to what this Goomba does over here. We start driving out, and I'm literally couldn't even stand up. I'm holding on to the crossbars in the boat, and I'm like, he's in the captain's chair. And every time we hit a wave, he was like this. I can see his knuckles like turning white. He's not saying a word the whole way over. And we hit the wave, and he's like, all the way over, like 12 miles into 2 to 4 foot chop. And then a lot of times over there, like the southwest wind in close chops up, but when you get out to the island, it flattens out, right? The wind, it lets go.
I got to cut you off for a second. The reason why that is because I was sitting at a traffic light, Bradenton, Florida. It's red. You're sitting there, and then you get rear-ended, and he's going about 50 miles an hour, and he snaps your neck, and you end up in surgery, and you get plates and nuts and bolts in your neck. So when the boat starts bouncing now, don't get sick. That hasn't happened yet, but it will happen. Every admiral in the Navy, he's gotten sick. You know, it just hasn't been my turn yet. It should have been, but it not yet. So whenever the boat's pounding my neck,
yeah, so he doesn't tell us. He doesn't tell us. So I notice he's in a little bit of pain on the way over. I knew nothing about the surgery or anything like that, right? So we get over there. He's in the chair like, like, you all right? He goes, I will be in a minute. So finally he gets up, and my brother's looking at him, and he's like, you all right? And then he tells us the story about his neck surgery, right? So I was like, Jesus Christ, Bill.
they cut open the front of your throat, they push your esophagus to the side, and they go in from the front to get to the back.
So anyways, we're talking a little bit about it, and I said, what did the doctor tell you? He goes, you probably want to take it easy for like 3 or 4 months after, no physical activity or anything like that. And I go, how long ago was the surgery? And he goes, 2 weeks.
Hey, believe me, you don't want no part of that. That getting rear-ended and that whiplash, that ain't no joke. The jackhammer headaches that you have at night when you're trying to sleep, horrible. You don't wish that on anyone except the devil.
So he, at the end, like once we got all the facts dispelled about what was bothering him, he looks at my brother and me like this, and he goes, trip with the Luccini brothers, I wasn't going to miss this for anything.
That's awesome.
Now we
And
all
I never saw a 50-pound bass. We got to the ledge. I get my ass kicked again, as usual. We were there, less than 7 minutes. Channel 72 in Provincetown, when you hear him talking about the king, that's the king. That ain't no joke. They all know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Here he was, 7 minutes. The rod. Right over. 45 pounds on the scale. That's how he started with. Then it was a 50-pounder. He catches a 53-pounder. Then his brother gets a bigger one. One after the other. I didn't catch anything over 25 pounds. These guys are slaying them. Oh, I wanted to kill both of them.
That was in between me. I was in such rough shape. I took the black boat fender, and I had it on most of the day I was on the floor of the boat. And I got up in time to recover, throw up over the side, and then go back to the bottom. And he goes, I've seen this before. And he goes, and you brought it upon yourself. I don't feel sorry for you one bit. And then we all start laughing. And by the time I had nothing else in my body to expel, I think I stood up at the rail full time, probably like around noontime.
Oh,
What? Joined in the festivities.
What pieces of key information were you and your brother withholding from your good friend that kept him in the 20-pound range and you guys were hammering jumbos?
You know, it ain't the only fish. It's happened in Quebec with northern pike, and then all of a sudden, it's your day.
Yeah.
And you can't do nothing wrong. You know, something I'd forgotten, and it just hit me. I talked about Nauset Beach before, and there was a lot of things I left out. Oh man, there was a whole boatload of things I left out. And I want to get this one now. When you're fishing at Nauset Beach, when do you start fishing? If we're playing cards, I got my chips, I'm all in. High tide on the drop. When's the kill hour? Between the second and the third hour of the drop. And you got the shingle of the beach, and you got the crest up on top of the beach, and the waves are flooding up onto the shingle, and as they're ebbing away, when it's flooding up the shingle and it's flooding up at you, there's another wave coming right behind it. I'm talking about an average day. I'm not talking about when it's blowing a gale or it's dead calm. That second wave that's coming, you got one flooding up on the shingle, you got the second one coming right behind it, right there. I know we're all out there pegging off into oblivion. You know, you're trying to cast to Dublin. They're right at your feet. They're right there. Oh yeah, they're that close. When the water's dead low, where do you go? You walk around the hole you're fishing, you go to the outer bar, then you can peg it off into oblivion, you know? And sometimes with that pogey, you know, you're cutting it behind the head, and you just severed the spine on the way down. Once you sever the spine, stop the cut. Grab the pokey by the back, put your thumb underneath, and like crack it. And it will pull, not an artist here, but it'll pull from the back down towards his butt. And sometimes you'll get that whole bottom, and it's like a whole little mini chum pot. And, you know, wipe those eyes, wipe that target, wipe those eyeballs, just like you're butter fishing when you're out at the canyons, you know, and you're praying for that big, fat, humongous big eye. Wipe them eyeballs clean, you know. When I hook the butterfish, I hook him under the jaw, I pull it out of his forehead, pull some line away, then stick it underneath the gill and push it down into the body cavity. Get just the tippity tip of the barb to come out, wipe that scale off it clean, wipe it even at 2 a.m. You're doing all these things and all this effort and money. Don't skimp nothing. Nothing. You know, once you put it in the water, put the rod in the rod holder, back to drag off, pull in the line, try to count like it's a 1 foot pull. You know, you're trying to gauge, you know, how deep am I? And if the captain comes down, ask captain, you know, did you mark anything on the graph? You know, how deep were you seeing them? If you were fishing, how deep? He's the guy up in the wheelhouse looking at the sonar. Ask him. He'll tell you. You know, I'd be fishing at 225 feet. Try to gauge those 1 foot pulls. You know what I mean? You get it down there, let it sit a couple, reel it all the way back up and keep feeding it down. Never stop moving that. Bring a freshwater rod. Get those little Yozuri squid jigs, the little bitty ones, the pink ones. I had great, and if Mike Pagano was the guy at a tackle shop, and he made these little tiny squid jigs, and they only had one little cut, not the double, and it was the glow-in-the-dark tubing that was white, and it had big red beads. It was just a little itty-bitty little thing.
So one of the best ones I had was made by Charlie Cinto. Had a squid, kind of like you're describing. It was about that big, had a single basket at the bottom, and then like a little glow.
The same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, they would jump all over that thing, man, like a hobo on a bologna sandwich. And,
Canyon squid are tough. They're way pickier than when you see them in here.
Oh,
when
yeah.
You're out there in that blue water.
And once you take that squid and you hook them up in the mantle, I love the hook, you know. Mustard 94150 is bronze, 9/0. Use that file and make them scary sharp. Mm-hmm. Drag this across your thumbnail and it'll stick in instantly. instantly.
Now that's not a circle hook, right?
That's
No,
a sidewash.
I'd be
Sound.
using, yeah, it's a J hook.
The chunk one you're describing?
Yeah, the really old chunk one is the 9174. I've seen them in block tin where it was an oval piece of tin and it was just dropped in the back like as crude as could be. But block tin has a refraction in the water column that no other metal on earth can duplicate, including gold. It's got a glow and a flutter. You know, there's nothing going to beat that. I know we see all these other tuna jigs and everything, candy cane colored. I look at them and, you know, that's for catching fishermen. But no, I'm not even trying to be funny. You know, you ain't going to beat that block tin metal. It's not going to happen.
What boat would you go to the canyons on for those trips? Helen H?
The first trip I went on was on the Gale Francis, September 28th, 1989. I looked at my watch. It was 5 minutes to midnight. I looked at my friend Chuck and I said, it's almost midnight. 5 more minutes and I turn into a pumpkin. 1, 2, thump. And I thought, no, that wasn't that hard. Oh. It took off. It was a 140-pound Allison yellowfin tuna. I got a big poster of it, picture on my wall. Still got the hook in the corner of his mouth. The most fun you ever had in your life, and you still got your pants on. Oh, yeah. You laugh. I'm not trying to be funny. Oh, well, was it fun? I hooked another one. Like, as soon as I put the bait back in the water, I was trying to put it down, and I was using the live squid. This was all new. Squids were big. And I went like this, like, what happened to the line? I thought, wow, that squid's that's a big one. He's feeling, and I picked up and I had another coil. And I picked up like that and I had another coil. And I probably had 3 or 4 of them in my finger, like, he's swimming right back. I got a 16-ounce bank sinker. Take your Sharpie and blacken the sinker. 2 number 64 elastics. Because if you use 2 of them, they choke on it and it won't slide up and the sinker might snap off and the elastics come in onto your international 50 TW and they rip back, but the elastic won't move. And all of a sudden I had the coils in my hand, the thing like that, and I really was. Man, it was a huge squid. I picked it and then, no, that's not, and then everything just took off. And you can't get the rod out of the rod holder. You're trying to pull it up, you know. Was it fun? Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah.
Dude, like these stories, because I can see that. I love the canyon headboat trips. Like I can feel that moment, especially when everybody starts to drop, turn into a pumpkin, like you said, and it's just you and the other 5 or 6
The last
nuts
one
on
I
there.
did was on Yankee Captain with Greg, big Greg. And when we were heading out, you always, when you pick your bunk, you never want to pick the bunk that's up near the bow. Because that's the part that's going to, so I picked it as far away, all the way back as I could. And when I woke up, because I went surf fishing all night long the night before, I only slept for a few hours when I got on the boat, I was going to fall asleep. And when I woke up, all I could smell was vomit. And I could feel the boat going, boom! I thought, oh, I couldn't even get out of the rack. It was all waving all around. I caught a 150-pound big eye on that. Captain Greg gaffed it in the back and ripped a big, huge hole in it. And it fought harder than ever. It took me another 20 minutes to get it back. Yeah, it was fun. 3 guys on that boat didn't get sick. Me, Captain Greg, and I think it's the kid Sandro on .com.
Yeah.
He was mate on that boat.
Okay.
It might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was him.
So I have a somewhat similar story to that. I fished with Captain Greg down in the Keys for that's great, right? He moved.
I like that guy.
He's
I
down in
liked
Key
him a
West
lot.
now, right?
Yeah.
Oh, he was.
So I fished with him. I went down, and it was a 3-day trip, and I went down to sleep in the bunk below. And all of a sudden, somebody just like, I'm sleeping, and I hear something, and then all of a sudden, the smell hits me. Some guy decided he was going to come down. He got sick. He said he was going to go from upstairs, instead of puking over the side of the boat, he was going to run down into where all the bunks were and vomit right at the foot of my bed. And everyone was like, what is the matter with, like, you have the whole ocean, and dude, it stunk. And for the rest of the trip, it smelled like vomit in there. I can imagine where there's multiple people doing it. That had to be.
I'm laughing. I mean, there was guys that had bottles, quarts. I can see them, and they're pulling the corks out, and they're sitting there, and they're gone. I said to myself, boy, if it's rough as a cob, I don't want to be that guy. And they would be instead. They looked like they were going to die. You could see a wave like a quarter. You could see a wave a half a mile away. You keep your eye on it and watch it come all the way. All the way. I got a story for you. Okay, Provincetown, early spring. It was cold. This guy's name is Jimmy Kelly, Provincetown legend. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Kelly, flaming red hair, freckles all over him, his milky white skin, and skinny, and he's a character. He's got his bread truck on the beach. They were all up at the race. There's some schoolies around, but not really any gangbuster fishing yet. And everybody's just happy, and it was like a bluebird day. Dead calm, no wind, sunny. Finally start, that springtime, that sweet, beautiful feeling you feel in the springtime. It was one of those days. And Jimmy Kelly had 3 bunks in his Sunbeam bread truck on the beach. You can't
Wheel drive probably too.
Yeah, you can't make this up. Here we go. Okay. All of a sudden, Kelly's in his boxer underwear in his bunk, and they were watching Leave It to Beaver. I'm honest. It's honest some more. They're smoking that evil weed. Okay. I don't care. You want to smoke it? Go ahead and help yourself. I never been high in my life. I swear to God, my mother's grave. Never. Never. Okay. That doesn't make me thou art or more holier than thou. But back to Jimmy Kelly. And all these guys on the beach screaming, oh my God, they're freaking out. What's going on? There's a humongous bass laying up on the surface. The pectoral fins going. And it's huge. I said it was flat calm. It's huge. Kelly come out of the thing and ran back, got a gaff, ran down to, hey, I said it was early spring. That water is Arctic.
Cold.
Arctic. Provincetown water.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and he goes, skin and bones. Swam up to it. He got up to it. He started to tread water. He pulled the gaff back, and the bass went under. He swam all the way back in. He come out of the water. I'm telling you, dude, he was like purple. He was so cold. Purple. Skin and bones. Went back inside. He's cussing and swearing. 5 minutes goes by. And they were all screaming. It's up on the surface again. And it's half the distance now. It's a lot closer. He came flying out with that gap this time with an attitude. I'm going to get you. He swam out there, swam right up to it, took the gap, boom, right in the head. Boom, under the water he went. He was gone so long, I would have swore to God he drowned. Gone. He's never going to give up, like a snapping turtle. I know this guy. You know he's crazy. I think crazy. He's crazy as a house rat. That's crazy, all right? He come up to the surface. He's swimming back. There's about 50 guys on the beach. Yeah! He got it 47 pounds.
That place has what initially attracted me out there, because I spent most of the 80s, 90s, up to about the early 2000s out there. That's what I was told you. I started off freshwater, and then I was all about striped bass, striped bass, striped bass.
Shimano has rods and reels for every fishery in the Northeast, whether it's deep dropping the swordfish in the canyons, casting the stripers in the surf, or finessing panfish through the ice. That's about as wide a range of fishing applications as you're going to get. For inshore saltwater applications, the workhorse of the Shimano lineup is the Spheros SW combo. The Spheros SW is built with premium Shimano technologies like Infinity Drive, which increases cranking power and smoothness while fighting fish. The rods range from a 7-foot medium heavy to a 9-foot heavy and fit Spheros SW sizes from 5,000 to 8,000 for a range of lure and bait fishing. From the surf this past season, I used the Ultegra XR 14,000 XSD paired with the Shimano Tierlejo XX surf rod. The Ultegra XR is Shimano's most feature-packed surf reel to date, with the rigid cast spool support to stabilize the spool while casting heavy lures, Infinity Drive to increase winding power under pressure, and X-Protect technology to provide high-level water resistance. The Tierlejo XX is built for casting distance and durability. The 10'6", 1 to 3 ounce model was perfect for punching Ava jigs through the wind during a sand eel bite in New Jersey last fall, and it was great for throwing pencil poppers to distant bluefish off the south side of Cape Cod. It's become my go-to combo when casting distance makes the difference in the surf. No matter what you're fishing for in the Northeast, Shimano has a rod and reel for it. To pick out your next setup, visit fish.shimano.com.
But when you get up there for the first time, you guys ever read 20 Years on the Cape by Frank Dano?
I almost read it every year.
He depicts the whole...
I wrote letters back and forth to him.
Me too. Yeah.
20 years on the Cape when it was in the Fisherman magazine.
He captures
We were
the
writing letters
essence
back and forth.
of that whole scene. Like, it's all the personalities, and then it's the secret society. Because back then, everybody was fishing for money. Like, you weren't making... Some guys were actually making a pretty good living off of surf fishing for striped bass. Guys that lived down there, they were on the bite every single night. But there were a bunch of different contingents of people on the beach. There were the New Yorkers, like the Brooklyn New Yorkers. There were the Staten Island New Yorkers. There were the Cape Codders. There were the guys like us, the Southeastern Mass guys. But some people had high notoriety because of their angling accomplishments. And Nate Piazza.
Oh, yeah.
I knew who he was before I
Now
ever
we're talking about the legend now, ain't we?
Yeah, we're talking like the Godfather.
He fished the surf in Provincetown for 50 years.
Right.
All right.
And you guys have heard of Tony Sciarappo, a dear old friend too. And I remember talking to Sciarappo about Nate, and he goes, you know, all the years we were out there, he knew who I was and I knew who he was, but we actually never met until, you know, like a lot of years later. Because Nate had the Brooklyn crew of New Yorkers. And I think Tony had, he was from Staten Island, and he had the Bass Run Tackle Shop in Eastham. So he kind of knew everybody, but he's like, yeah, we knew each other, but we never crossed paths. So I was telling you earlier, I'm like the little piss pot kid, and like everything I see, I'm like, wow, oh my God. Like, you know the names of the people, and you're like, I can't wait to meet this guy and this guy and this guy. So it's like the end of June, and new moon in June, I used to say every year. New moon, you guys know, like the tides are constant with the moon. Like when it's the night of the new moon, high tides at midnight on Boston. And in Newport, high tide on the full moon and the new moon's 8:24. They're constant, they don't change. The moon and the tide are together. So guys used to say, all right, you want to be up there 3 nights before the new moon, high tides at like 9:30, 10 o'clock, the tide's falling. Southwest winds blowing in, there's sand eels, there's everything else. But the pipe and plovers have closed the beach, so you can't get close enough to Race Point to park your truck and fish. So you had to drive past like where the campers are in an area called the Traps. It's like right before you get up on Race Point proper. And there was a bunch of stakes in the road, and there were 2 or 3 like beach buggies parked there. And again, I'm totally green. I knew how to cast. I mean, cast towards the water and retrieve. And so I get up around the corner with my buddy Dave. He's an old high school buddy of mine. And we get around Race Point, and we're going in towards Hatches Harbor, and the southwest wind's blowing right in, and we're just like destroying fish. Not like 15, 20 pounders. And a little while later, like we're dragging a fish up to the top of the beach, and this guy comes up in the dock, and he gets pretty close to me. He goes, "Don't turn on your light. I don't want any company." And I'm like, "Okay." And he comes over, and he's got a 6-inch or 5 1/4-inch broken back Rebel. The hook is like all the way through his finger. Like it's through his thumb, and the nail is coming out of his thumb. He goes, he's got the Godfather voice.
Oh, yeah,
"Young
he does.
man, I need your help with something. I want you, when I tell you to pull, I want you to take the pliers, and I want you to pull as hard as you can. Don't worry about me." He goes, "Get this hook out, and I want to get back to what I'm doing," right? So I'm like, I have no idea who it is. So he comes over, and he's got the finger, and he just not like, he goes, "And don't turn your light on." I could just see like the thing, and I grab onto it. "Now pull." And I pull, and you could tell he was like, ah. The hook comes out. He goes, pats me on the shoulder. "Thank you, young man. Keep your light off." And he goes back to the fishing, right? And the next day I met him. His finger's taped up. I still don't know who it was. So as was the protocol back in the day, like 70s. I wasn't there in the 70s. I was like late 80s, 90s. You'd come off the beach, and then Beach Forest is on the right when you're coming out of Race Point. It's just like a public area, like you can cook out, and you'd pull in there, and there'd be like 25 or 30 trucks in there. All the surf
Yeah,
fishermen would
everybody
gather
hung
there
out.
the night before. So if you had fish, you'd take them to the market, you drop the fish off, get paid. Then you go back to Beach Forest, hang out, cook out, and talk fishing. And then I forget who it was I was talking to. He comes up to me, and he goes, "Nate Piazza was out there last night, and he said there was a young guy out there who helped him." And he goes, he was asking around. He's like, "Is he here?" And I go, "Yeah, I think that was me." He had a Rebel in his finger and this and that. He's like, "Okay." So a few minutes later, I'm looking over, and here comes the Godfather, like walking up to me. And like, I'd never seen him. I heard all about him. I didn't know what he looked like in person, but I knew it was him. Black T-shirt, hat down. "Young man, I wanted to thank you for your help last night," right? So thanks. I go, "I'm Mike Luccini. I'm Nate Piazza." And I was like, "Nate Piazza? Oh my God, I've been touched by like the hand of God.
He caught a
brought
68-pound
into
bass with a rig deal.
Yeah."
A
So
lot of 60s.
we're talking about rig deals, and it just so happened I tied up this complete turd of a rig deal based on what I read out of a magazine.
Yeah.
It was not your magazine. It was a different publication altogether. This is like in the mid '80s. So I got the book, and I'm like, rig deals, and I'm reading about Frank Dano and catching the rig, this and that. And it wasn't out of his book either. So I tied the rig deal up, and I'm talking to Nate, and I'm like, "I heard you're a pretty good rig deal fisherman." I might be, you know? So I'm like, "What can I tell you?" And I'm like, "I tied one up, and I want you to, can you take a look at it and, you know,
Critic.
see what you think of it?" So I'm like all proud. I go over to the cooler, and I'm like, "I'll wait till he sees this thing," right? I bring it up to him, and he goes, "That's the biggest friggin' embarrassment I ever seen in my life." He goes, I'm not going to use the expletive. He goes, "You're all effed up." "You're all effed up." Right? So he pulls out his knife.
I can picture him saying
Oh,
it,
yeah,
too.
absolutely. And he takes the knife, and he cuts the eel in half. And he looks at him, and he goes, "You're all effed up." So he's like, "Come over to my truck, and I'm going to show you the right way." He goes, "It may not be the best way. I believe it's the best way. And I'm going to show you how I do it." So now I'm with my buddy, and my buddy's like, "Nate Piaz is going to show us how to rig an eel." Oh my God, we're like at the pinnacle of the sport right now. So we go over, and he starts off with, he goes, "First of all, you need to have the correct eel." He goes, and I don't mean, you know how the eels come in sometimes? You get the stubby ones, and they have the little tiny head on them.
Yeah.
And then you get those big yellow American eels, and they have the big jowls on them like a bullfrog.
Oh,
They have
yeah.
like the big bulbous flat head. So he pulls out the eel, and he says, "You need this kind of eel." And he goes, "You want an eel that has as much distance between the vent hole and the tail as you can get." He goes, "You want a lot of stuff to flap in the water." And he said, no, other times anything will work. He goes, but again, he goes, this is the way I do it. This is what I think is the best way. So the big bullfrog, jowls, flathead, yellow eel, I don't know, 16, 18 inches. He goes, and he says, as big as you can cast. He goes, there's no size limit. He said, but you're going to be throwing it all night, so you need something that's serviceable. So he takes out the eel, and then he comes out with the hooks. And I have stainless hooks in mine. And I have the hooks, and I'm like, and he goes, get rid of those. Get rid of those. He goes, you're all left up. Get rid of those, right? He must have said it 10 times. And then he pulls out the 2 tinned hooks. I think that's a tinned, if I can see
That
it.
is blue.
He goes, you need the whatever the model number is. And he points his finger at me like, you better remember this. Tinned hooks only. And I'm like, I didn't even question why. I'm like, Nate says tinned, it's tinned. He goes, you want a 10-aught in the head and you want an 8-aught in the tail. And the reason why is you want the eel to sit in the water like this. So that big tail catches the water and generates action on the eel.
And when you cast it out, you want the reel, the conventional reel here. And every time the rod tip comes up, the crank handle comes over. So it's like this. And there it is swimming with you.
Dude, that thing comes through the water better than you cannot even imagine what it looks like in the water.
I talked about the swimming pool before, and when you watch it in the swimming pool, you have your buddy reel it in, you walk along the edge of that pool, looking down as it's swimming. The first words out of your mouth, you're going to look at, did you see that? I know. That was the first thing. Did you see that?
Yep.
Because again, like I said, Nauset, you got a lot of big surf at Nauset. You cast out a live eel at Nauset, it's inevitable. You're going to lose it. You're going to lose it. You can't really feel it. Like, where is it? I'll get back to that in a second. We talked about this earlier. I remember when I was in high school in late 70s, Bassmaster magazine, they first started bringing those big fish tanks to the fishing shows. They had bass in it. That had just started. And it was like some 2-pound, 3-pound bass, 2-pound bass. And they wanted to film with high-speed film the bass. It was a man's jelly worm, great purple, a beautiful little worm. And it was a little 6-inch worm, and it was like a 2-pound bass. And what they filmed on high-speed film was the bass would suck in, he'd suck in that worm and eject it, a fake. He did it in less than a quarter of a second. Less on high-speed film. And the camera right on him. So whenever, there's always this great debate, and fishermen talk about it in the coffee shop all the time. How long do I let him run with it? I'll give you a hint. We just talked about this. He's not holding his hands, bro. Hit him.
Yeah.
And I don't set the hook 90 degrees. I don't. Whatever works best for you, do it. Me, it's the left side. I'm ripping it 180 degrees. You know what I mean? And then it grinded down on them. And again, about spinning rods and conventional gear, I think you have I know you do. I was just talking to Bobby LePage about this. And there's a guy that deserves a shout out. You've been making the most beautiful fishing rod. I got 16 of his rods. I got one of them outside in the truck with the Van Stahl on it, the X2. I've seen a lot of custom rods. You make the finest fishing rods I ever seen. But back to the taking the bait, again, he's not holding in his hands, hit him. How many times you bring the eel in and you're like, man, I should have gotten bit by now. You always turn your back to the water. You turn your light on, coveted with your back to the water. When you look at the eel, when you look at that eel, you can tell if he's been clobbered because they got really fine scales on them, similar to like a little brook trout, and you can actually see how wide the jaw was that clamped onto that eel. And now he's deader than a doornail and you missed it. You can see the clamp marks, the scratches on him. Oh, one time at a high head during the day, I pegged it out there as far as I could. I just let him sit on the bottom for a minute. And I missed. It happens. You know, I mean, he was really taking it. I must have pulled it out of his mouth like spaghetti. And it was a big conger eel, one of those ones you can hardly cast. And he came back annihilated. The chew marks on him, and he was dead as a doornail, like he got electrocuted. And it just makes you sick to your stomach. Oh, I told you, I did a podcast last year. I talked about 3 fish that I hooked and lost that still bother me. You know, I really can't even remember. I swear to God in the Holy Bible, I really can't remember a lot of them. I look at pictures in a photo book, and I got a work uniform on and everything. I don't even remember them. You know, 30-some, I don't even remember them, I swear to God. What do I remember? The ones I lost. And I talked about really getting my ass spanked 3 times. Well, I got number 4. It was the day before Thanksgiving. I'm fishing at North Cape Flats. Favorite place to go fishing in Florida. You got to walk a little over half a mile through the palmetto forest. Beautiful walk. Get to the water. You got to walk a good 450 yards. And it starts to get deeper and deeper coming up your chest. And then it rises up and it comes up onto a sandbar. And there's 4 sandbars that roller coaster. And in between the roller coaster of the sandbars, there's the sandbars are 8 miles long. Maybe if you Google it, you'll see this satellite picture of 4 white lines on it. That's the sandbars. That's what you're seeing. I didn't understand what it meant at first. Okay, so in between there's all this eelgrass and all the shrimps and the little peeler crabs and sardines and pilchards and pinfish, and everything's hiding in the grass. And if you're lucky, one of those big devil rays will come through, swimming between the bars. And as macho as you think you are, it's going to scare the shit out of you. No. You don't understand. This is like looking at a Panzer tank creeping up on you. Massive. And if it ever hit the throttle and you're in front of it, he'll break both of your femurs like nothing. Or it's just like the plow truck going through the field, and he's plowing the field. All the little white birds are all behind him. You ought to see all the cobias and the redfish right on behind that devil ray. You know, you want to get really close to them so you can cast to the fish you see. Okay, so I was fishing out there with my friend Darren the day before Thanksgiving. I told him we got like 15 minutes and we got to get back, because when you're that far offshore, you turn around and look back and all it is woods of State Park. Where's the footpath to get back? You really need to get on that path, or it's going to be a long night. Okay, and by the way, here's a new headlamp. It's a Nightcore HC35. I have a Pelican headlight. It's got like 300 lumens, but I've had the thing about 35 years. It's waterproof to 500 feet deep. It's bulletproof. It lasts forever. It's ancient. It still works. I keep using it. This, 2,700 lumens. You saw how bright it was this morning.
I saw it about 5:30 this morning.
This is like
my eyes are still trying to readjust to
you wouldn't believe
daylight.
Anyway, so there I was at North Cape Flats, and I said to Darren, we got like 15 minutes, and we got to start to go. We got to get on that path. I took the biggest pinfish that was left in the troll bucket. A lot of guys, like, we just talked about this, you know, with the pickle jar, you know, put your eels in it, and your giant surf bag, and you got 800 pounds of crap hanging off you. I don't know how you guys can stand that. I wear a scuba diver's web belt. I got a 12-foot cord. I got one of those Fraybill float buckets. I did that surf fish and kept my eels in it. It's 12 feet long. You won't even know it's there. And then I got Bass Pro Shop. They sell these little $4.99 for a fish stringer. Everything's plastic, a little plastic. The whole thing floats. The parachute cord floats. Yeah. And you got the Pelican 1050s and 1060s. All your tackling, a little small, waterproof. Got them all clipped on. Don't have one thing in my shirt nothing free. Everything you need is in there, hanging behind you. All right, took the biggest pinfish, threw him out there. A couple seconds go by, and all of a sudden I'm looking at him saying, where's my popping cork? Man, it was right there. I just threw it there. I don't see nothing. And I started cranking the reel. I'm going like, what the? And I started reeling up faster. And I'm reeling up fast. And I said, he's got it. He's swimming right at me. Oh, that's really different. I wonder why. It's like all of a sudden, he's right up in front of me, like right there. Boom, hooked him. Man, this sucks. I feel like getting down on my hands and knees like a little bitch and vomiting right now. You guys can all start rolling on the ground laughing, and it's not funny. The thing, it took off like a goddamn Japanese bullet train, okay? Most important thing everybody knows when you hook a big fish, I mean, you got a good one this time. You can really feel it. Rod tip up. Don't touch the drag. Want more drag? Add that educated thumb. You're way ahead of these spinning reel guys by a mile. I can't lift the rod up. Like stupid fast. I took my 2 fingers and I'm putting it on the reel. It's burning my fingers. It's never happened before in my whole life. I put my thumb on it, but it's not really burning my thumb, and I'm like, this is hopeless. And way faster than I'm saying it, I got 50, 75 feet of line left. And I just filled the whole spool with Seaguar, Smackdown, Green Flash line. The whole spool. I got 50 feet left. I cupped the spool. I lock it up on purpose. I could never lift the rod up and snap-o. And there's Darren. What is it? What is it? I said, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone. And I reeled for like 10 minutes to get all the line in. And I really did. I felt like Mike Tyson hit me with a left hook to the liver, and I never even saw it coming. I just tied a knot in the line end of it in a knot, put it over the handle, and turned around and walked back to my truck as one dejected, incorrigible, degenerate, sick to my stomach.
Body shot.
And I mean, and I told my good friend, I told him about it. He's a charter boat captain, David Stevens. You guys, amazing. I never seen anybody throw 12-foot cast net like that. Like, it's a pancake every time. But it's the only thing he's ever done all his life is that. You ought to see him throw that thing. When I told him about it, I was a little more graphic than this. Oh, I could tell he's rolling around on the ground holding his stomach. He's about to piss his pants from laughing so hard. He said, I know one thing. You'd like to think it was a big cobia. You'd like to think it was a humongous Jack Crevalle. And that's my favorite fish to catch in Florida. We have such a galaxy of fish to catch. You don't know what you hook. He said, don't worry about it. It had teeth. Big, big teeth. Tiger, he said, bull sharks. I know. I'm out there with them 7 days a week. Bull sharks love wolfing down bat pinfish. It had teeth. Big teeth. No, don't you think it was a giant? We call Jack Crevalles canal tunas, and they fight. Thank God they don't weigh 250 pounds, because you'd never land one. Oh, my. And they grunt when they get out. Oh, they fun. Yeah. Longest fish fight I ever had was with a Jack Crevalle, and he grabbed his Zara spook, and I had hooked him. It happened in like 2 feet of water. It was knee deep on top of the bar. I'm walking off. And all of a sudden, I was speeding it in. And also just went boom right in front of my face. I mean, I'm pulling the thing out of the water to peg it out there again. And he again, you know, he took off like a rabid baboon on cocaine again. And he swam by me so many times. I was scared. that the treble hooks of the Zara spook when it can, and he swam right by my leg one time, spook hanging out. I thought he was going to hook me. He would never give up. He would never. Fish. You'd think you were at Hydrographer's Canyon with the biggest big eye that ever set foot there. What's the world record, big eye? 383 pounds?
That's about right, yeah.
I think yellowfin's 388. And Ken Frazier's bluefin, 1974, 1496. Those stands.
Well, there hasn't been a 400-pound yellowfin?
Probably never be beaten.
It might have been by now, but I don't know. I don't really keep records of that, you know. I don't. Maybe I should, but I don't.
My kids asked me that the other day because I went down yellowfin fishing in Jersey, didn't catch any. And they were like, how big do yellowfin get? I was like, I think 400 pounds, but I could be wrong about that. For some reason, I thought there was at least
I'd like to see one. You know, every canyon trip I went on, it seemed like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, somebody would hook up into something humongous. And it would take them around the boat and around the boat and around the boat. And the captain would fight it and all the mates would fight it. Everybody's trying to keep some fresh arms on it. And one canyon trip I went on, kid was from New Hampshire. He had graduated from high school and he loved fishing, but the only fishing he ever really did was going out by the cornfield to the cow ponds, fishing for catfish at night. And he graduated from high school, and his parents sent him, he had rented a rod, everything. I mean, he really didn't know the difference between his ass and his elbow. But he was a nice kid. And he was up at the rail next to me. And I gave him a live squid. I told him, with my silent light stick down 300 feet deep, I was trying to catch a swordfish, you know. And this really pissed me off. He fell asleep, sound asleep, and his rod goes off. No, it's not funny.
I knew this was going.
Oh yeah, here it is, the punch in the gut again, and his rod like nonstop. I gotta wake him up. Yeah, and he landed the swordfish, and I get a picture of him in my photo of him. I swear to God, I do. I still look at it from time to time. Do you have any idea how lucky you are? And he's holding it up. And the colors of the swordfish when they first go in. Even though he's not vividly colored like a yellowfin from Guadalupe, that's the most beautiful thing. Most beautiful freshwater fish I ever seen. Pictures. They didn't know he existed until 1906. Arroyo La Sidra. And they live in northwest Mexico in the snow-covered Sierra Nevada mountains between like 6,000 and 9,000 feet above sea level. 9,000 feet above sea level. Mount Everest is 29,600, a third of the way up. And a full-grown adult is anywhere from 6 to 9 inches. I've asked Spanish people, I've written it down. Arroyo La Sidra, what does that mean? Every one of them. There's a lot of Latinos in Florida. They all say, I don't know, Arroyo is Lip River, La Sidra, I don't know. That's like the Latin name to Benito, Sada, Sada. Sada is Greek, it means sardine. Sardine, sardine. Fishing is in sardine. He's the smallest member of the tuna family. And I took my friend Jim Pendleton fishing. Never caught a fish in his life. First fish he catches, Benito, a big one, a big Benito, with Captain Colby, little sister. Oh man, with Andy. Oh, what a fun time that was, man. I never laughed so hard in my life. That was a blast. You got any funny fishing stories?
I got the wetsuit story we were talking about earlier.
All right, let him have it.
Fished in a wetsuit before?
443 is the all tackle yellowfin.
Is it?
Yeah, caught last year, according to a quick Google search.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Substantial
Can
fish.
you imagine what that looked
No.
like? Imagine the shoulders on that thing. Huh?
I mean, I'd love to
I mean,
get
the
out
big
there.
guy, you know, he's the short. They're like big guys. They're like
barrel chested.
jacked,
You know, just they look like
Yeah.
a bluefin
Prison
that's been
tuna.
compressed.
And it's what's very distinctive with
WWF.
bluefins in the inside, the body cavity. you know, it's oval. It's oval. But on the big eye, it kind of like the image of Batman's mask. That's how I can describe it. Comes around the bottom and it comes up like a spike and it comes down and then it goes flat across. Totally distinctive. You know, because if they're small, if they're like 60, 75 pounds a piece, not too easy to tell them apart. Mm-hmm. But the abdominal cavity, dead giveaway.
Huh.
You know?
Keeping your boat in tip-top shape is hard, especially when it comes to upgrade projects. But I know a place that makes it much easier. Boat Outfitters makes custom solutions designed to enhance your fishing experience on the water. They offer tackle storage systems, bait prep stations, cutting boards, rod holders, and leaning posts that keep your gear organized and accessible. Their durable King Starboard marine plastic is built to withstand the harshest conditions and will last the lifetime of your boat. For over 40 years, boat builders and boat owners have trusted Boat Outfitters for innovative, durable boat accessories and hard-to-find parts. Whether you're upgrading your boat with OEM replacement parts or customizing storage solutions for a more efficient setup, their team of knowledgeable engineers is ready to help you plan your next project. Boat Outfitters, proven parts to max out your time on the water. Check them out at boatoutfitters.com today.
So go ahead, tell me your wetsuit story. Go ahead.
Wetsuit, all right. So, that you growing up, right, fishing on the Cape, sand, no rocks, no worry, no nothing. And friend of mine, Mike Varaca, you remember him, right?
I know Mike. Oh yeah.
I mean, he's like this generation's surf casting. He's the stud. He's the man.
He won Angler of the Year in Striper Cup a couple years. He was always at the top back when the Striper Cup was a weigh-in tournament. He was always at the top of the leaderboard. I run into him every once in a while, and I love seeing. One of my favorite memories of seeing Mike more recently was it was COVID. It was the 2020 COVID. Everybody's like nobody's going near anybody, and I'm in the wetsuit. I'm walking down the beach, and I'm like. I just recognize him. Heard his voice. I go, Mike. He goes, Jim. He runs over and gives me a hug, like a wetsuit to wetsuit hug. During the pandemic. I can still hear the sound of being like I'm like, well, okay. You've COVID, Mike? But no, he's a great guy, man. He really is.
Yeah, so I got to know him on the Cape. I was out there with a couple friends of mine, the Jackson brothers, Greg Jackson, Doug Jackson. And they must have run into him a few nights on the beach. And then when the Jacksons and we were cruising around, we were driving off the beach and he was coming the other way. So we kind of introduced each other, hit it off right away. How can you not love the guy? I mean, he's just like energetic, enthusiastic. I always tell him, I go, you're like a friggin' squirrel on acid, you know? You're just like all over the place, everywhere all at once. So we start doing a lot of fishing together. And then he starts the wetsuit thing. He's getting on the rocks at Cuddy Honk and Gooseberry Island, Little Compton. And I'm not ready for that yet, but like he calls me up one day and he's like, dude, you got to get a wetsuit and get out here. It's phenomenal. You're getting the fish you can't get from the surf. Get out of your waders. Get in the wetsuit. So he's goading me for a while. And then finally he's like, go out. He goes, you need a 7.5? You want a 7mm core, 5mm sleeves? He goes, you're going to get a little hot in it, but you can jump in the water and cool off, and corker boots. I'm going to take you to Cuddy Honk. He goes, I got it dialed. I got every inch of the island dialed. The rock, like, and literally he spent
did, man.
He went out there like a couple, 3 times a week. Get on the Cuddy Honk water taxi with John Paul, drive over, and then he befriended John Paul, and John Paul would let him take the 4-wheeler out on the island. So you could get all around Cuddy Honk Island in like 15 minutes. You get on the 4-wheeler. And so he finally talks me into getting in the wetsuit, and I'm probably like in my mid-30s. My kids are young, and I'm like, I'm gonna fall in the water. Something's gonna happen. Like I got certified as a diver. I'm not like him, but I'm like I would call a good swimmer. So I'm like, yeah, I'll be fine. So we go over to Cuddy Honk, and we stop at it's like the Big Y or something in Westport before we get to the ferry, and we load up on chicken wings. And he comes out with like a stack of skull about this big, like mint skull. Because he's like, you got to have this. You got to have this.
I've never seen him without a lip in, man.
I mean, he would put it in and it would look like a golf ball in his jaw. So we go over to Cuddy Honk And he goes, I'll be right back. I'm going to go get the motorcycle. You get your stuff on, get it together. We'll get out there, right? And it's literally right on the new moon. So I was talking about the tides earlier. New moon on Newport. I think it's like an 8:20 high tide or thereabouts. And he's like, it'll be high when we get out to the rock. He goes, but it's going to drop all night and you'll be fine. So we load up and we get on the motorcycle. And I kid you not, we were doing 30-something, 40 miles an hour. I literally, I was holding on to the bike for dear life. He doesn't care. He just wants to get there. And he's like, we got to get there. The New Yorkers are here. They're in the house. We got to beat them out to the rock. They beat us to the rock. We're screwed. We got to get there. So we rip across. And then we go by Zeno and all those guys, and they're walking down the road. We blow by them. And he's like, you got to get out and get the rock. You got to get the rock. So we get to the rock, and we pull all the stuff off. And the sun's just starting to go down. And I'm up on top of the dune, and I go, we going to that one right there? And he's like, oh, he's laughing. He goes, no, we're going to that one out there. And I look out, and I'm like, oh, boy, this is going to be interesting, right? You can just barely see the top of the rock. Now, 50 yards doesn't sound like a long distance, but when you're in the dark, in a wetsuit, you don't have flippers. You have no propulsion, really. You're just kind of sculling the water with your arm and going like this. So he's like, let's go. Grab all the stuff. We go down the cliff, and we're just about ready to get in the water. And he goes, oh, my God, I forgot the dip. Jesus Christ. He goes, I got to go back and get it. I can't fish without it. It's like, you ever see Goodfellas, at the end of Goodfellas, when the babysitter, Lois Bird, forgets her hat? She can't get on the plane to smuggle the drugs without the hat. She has to have the hat, or he has to have the dip.
I remember that. Yeah.
And then whenever he's talking, he'd be like, we're going to go out. We're going to get out on the... He'd always have it chewing, right? We're going to get out. We're going to get up. We're going to... So he takes off. He goes back up the top of the dune. I'm standing near the water, and I'm just looking out at the rock, and I'm like, that thing is way out there. That's way out there. So he gets to the top of the dune, and he's like, what are you waiting for? You swim out there. He starts laughing, and he starts the bike up. You swim out there. He's driving away, so I can hear the bike going away, and I can see the lights disappear. And now it's getting dark, and it's dead high tide, so you can't really see what's going on. So I'm like, yeah, I'm a pussy.
Psyching yourself
Right?
up.
So yeah. So I grab the eel bucket, and I strap it around my waist, and I put the rod over my shoulder, and I take 2 steps off the shore of Cuddy Hunk, and I'm over my head. I'm like, and I'm like, whoa. And now the water's moving, and you're starting to get away from the shoreline a little. So I'm like, first thing, get your breathing under control. You get in the water. Now I'm like, this is my first time in a wetsuit trying to get out, into the surf. And I have the corker boots on, and I'm kicking them wicked fast, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm like, this isn't going to work. So then I get on my side. I put the rod over my shoulder. I'm just kind of cupping the water. And that rock isn't getting any closer. It's like I'm looking in the dark, and then the tide's just starting to drop. So the waves are starting to make up around the rock. So you can kind of make it out. And I'm like, and I turn around and look back, and I'm a long way from the shore. And the tightness of the wetsuit makes it hard to breathe sometimes. So it's and I'm like, remember when he's telling me, he's like, don't freeze, just breathe, get your breathing under control.
Be dead calm.
As they start to get closer to the rock, the waves are coming over the rock, and the water is accelerating behind the rock. So when I get about 10 feet from the rock, a wave comes over and knocks me back. Now I'm 20 feet from the rock, and I'm like, okay, starting to get a little tired, and I'm like, no big deal. So this happens 2 or 3 times. Now I'm legit starting to panic. I'm thinking I want to swim back to the shoreline, but the shoreline's 50 yards. The rock's right there. I'm like, just get me up in the rock so I can get myself composed and get my breath back. So finally it dawns on me that why don't you swim around the front of the rock and let after I got my senses together, go around the front of the rock. And if you look at the old pictures of the Cuddy Hunk bass stands, in some of the books, the fishermen will be up on the planks, and there'll be a chum buoy down below. And some of the rocks out there have literally a jackhammered step out of the front of the rock. So that particular rock that we're on has a step on it.
No
and I
kidding.
think he said it's called the chum step. So if you look at, I don't know what the publication is, you'll see the guy, the old illustrated picture of the guy with the old cotton line. And you'll see the guy
Ashaway Line
in
Company.
the notch of the he'll be in the notch of the rock underneath the bass stand, chumming with lobster tails. So I get around the front of the rock, and I didn't know it was there. I just I'm trying to get up on the rock just so I can get out of the water, so I can breathe. And I get up on the top of the rock, and
So I
just
can keep
get
living.
on the rock, and I hug the rock, and then the next wave comes, and it almost took me off. I'm like over like this, and I'm holding on to the step, and I go back, and I'm like, here comes the next one over the top, and I'm like, oh my God. Took me about 10 minutes to finally stand up. And then I hear, see the lights coming? And then I see him get off the bike, and he's like looking around. He's got his light down on the dune looking around. Michael! And I'm like, I'm out here. And he starts laughing his ass off. So he's like, hell yeah, dude, you did it. He's like all pumped up. He's like freaking running down the water, jumps in he's laughing the whole way out. And then I retell the whole story. I'm like, dude, I'm surprised you didn't show up here and find me like dead floating on the water. And he's dying laughing. Everything's like, and he goes, why didn't you just swim around the front of the rock and let the water wash you up on the rock? I go, that's what it did, but it took me like 10 minutes to figure it out, right? So he's like, you friggin' moron. I go, well, you didn't tell me. I go, you just, you insulted me a little bit, so I had to, man up. And so now we get up on the rock. He's got his dip. He takes like half the tin and just throws it in, puts it in the dry pouch. And he starts whaling fish like almost immediately. So he's got 5 fish on the stringer. I don't even have a bite yet. He's competitive. You know what I mean? He maybe not tell you everything right off the bat.
Kind of like not to swim in front of the rock.
Yeah.
Like you withheld that.
After,
yeah.
Wait till you
Let me
slam
see if he
your
dies
toe in the
first.
door. Yeah. So he's like, you got a rubber core on? I go, no, right? He goes, you got to put a rubber core on there. He goes, you need 16th ounce. He goes, the water's 15 feet out there. How are you going to get to the bottom without a rubber core? So just as he's saying that, he sets the hook on another fish. And then the rod goes over. He reaches in and he gives me the rubber core packet. He fights the fish. Finally, I put the rubber core on. And he brings the fish in. And he's like, dude, it's a 50. It's a 50. I could finally get my surf 50. This and that. He's like all fired up. Puts it on the stringer. And then at the end of the night, we wind up with 10 fish on the stringer. They weighed, when we brought them to Westport Marine, 375 pounds. They were like big fish. One of the biggest 10 fish bags I was ever part of. So it's about 2:30, 3 o'clock. And he's like, John Paul's going to want us back at 5. I got to get the bike back. We got to bring the fish back. We got to clean off. We got to do all that. He goes, I'm going to stop bringing the fish back. You keep fishing. He goes, I want a couple more fish on that, before we go back. I didn't get another bite the whole night. At that point, I'm like, just get me out of here, right? I want to get off this rock and
If I survive,
leave,
it's a
right?
win,
So he goes to shore, and 2 fish at a time, he puts them over his shoulder, and he runs them up that steep bank up to the access road. And finally, he gets all the fish up. So, he's got, the last couple of fish, and I, jump in the water, and I come in. So all the fish are piled up on the road. He goes, I'm going to make 3 trips. I'm going to come back and get you on the 4th trip. He goes, I'm going to bring the big one last, right? Because he wanted to have it, and maybe, I think there was a scale at the dock at Cuddy Hunk, and he wanted to weigh it there. He goes, it's not certified and this and that, but we'll see what it is. So he makes trip number 1, comes back. Trip number 2 comes back. Trip number 3, he takes the fish, and he lays it across the rack on the back of the 4-wheeler. And he's going 40-something miles an hour down the island, as fast as you can. And he comes back 10 minutes later, and he's like, dude, I lost the fish. I lost the 50. And I'm like, what do you mean? It fell off the friggin' bike. And I was like, what? I go, what do you mean? He goes, I was flying. I was trying to get back. He goes, I turn around, I get to the dock, the fish is gone. And I'm like, so that leaves about 2.5 miles of potential area where the fish could have fallen off, right? He's like, oh, Jesus Christ. He goes, that's the one. So I go, did you go around any sharp turns? And he's like, yeah, right, back at the, whatever they call it, where that airstrip comes through the middle. We used to cut over, and he's ripping around it. So what happened? He goes ripping around the corner, and the fish flew off the bike into the bushes, right? So we get back, and I'm walking around the corner, and I put the light on, and you can see the fish glistening. The fish was like 10 feet off the road. It like head first flew off the back of the bike and landed in those those beach plums or whatever they are.
Yeah.
So finally we recover the fish and we bring it back to the dock at Cuddy Hunk. And it was one of those old scales, like you slide the number, and it was like I think it wound up being like a 49 pounder. It didn't quite. He came back and got a 50 a couple weeks later or something. But oh, what a sideshow that was, dude! First night in the wetsuit, and then you're up all night, and then you get back on the ferry, and then you need to get back for work the next day. You get back at like 7 o'clock. You haven't slept in like 2 days, and you're just like.
The thing lost a pound of scales to road rash.
Okay, chewing tobacco. I got a fish story for you. In Cape Coral, North Cape Flats, we have a little birthday party for one of the guys that's a real barnacle-encrusted surf rat. You know, his name's Jimmy, and he's starting to really have a lot of health problems, and he don't have a lot of time left. We'll call it that. So we got him a birthday cake. And he's drinking Christian brandy with, I don't know, he's drinking it, quite a bit of it. And he's catching himself a good old buzz. We got the candles lit, little barbecue going, bunch of guys, friends, everybody. Jimmy goes to blow out the candles as a birthday cake. And he's half in the bag. Blew his false teeth out into the frosted and the plug of chewing tobacco. I'm staring at the birthday cake like horrified. You've got to be shitting me. You know? My mother's so horrified what I do, you know, scuba diving shipwrecks off one. What is wrong with you? You participate in a sport. You're not at the top of the food chain. What is the matter with you? Where did we go wrong? All right. It gets worse. He grabs his teeth out of the frosted, puts them back in his mouth. I wish I was making this up. I hope this doesn't happen to me, but maybe it's inevitable over time. I don't know. He's scraping the frosting off the cake. And then he's cutting it up and and he started patting, oh, come on, guys, it's still good cake. And I'm over there going.
That was almost your time to get sick.
Huh?
That was almost your time to get sick.
Okay. When I came on here last year, I talked about the toilets in Provincetown. And with a lot of you, unless you see a lot of bottom, and I seen a lot of bottom.
So just to put some context on that, because you're saying a lot of things. Toilets that are sunken off Provincetown on the bottom of the ocean where lobsters get into them. Just to establish a little more backstory.
If you haven't seen the previous episode.
I was going to get there.
Exactly, yep.
And the way the toilets are all strung out on the bank, when I did not divulge, I missed so much. I did not divulge about the bathtubs. Oh, yeah, the bathtubs. The bathtubs are inside Provincetown Harbor. When you're behind Provincetown Inn and the sand's hot as a rock. It's like Daytona Beach. You could drive a brand new Cadillac down the beach. And you get all these big lobster boats out front of you. Big ones. Big downeasters and everything, you know. Duffies, all that stuff. What they all have for a mooring, I cannot take credit for being the finder of this. Let me get back to the story. Is what they all have for a mooring, every single one of them, is an old school bathtub with the claw feet, sitting upright. I swear to God, every word of this is true. They're full of concrete. And there's a giant piece of rebar, like 1.5 inch piece of rebar going in and out of the concrete. The concrete is a growing field for bubble weed on top, just like the table. And the bubble weed grows off of this like mad. All around you is all bright, shiny sand. And a dead low tide, 8, 9, 10, maybe 12 feet of water, maybe a little bit deeper. And the bubbleweed hanging off the side of the bathtub. Every single one of them I've ever seen, I've seen them a lot. They're all sitting upright. And the bubbleweed hanging off, and the way the sides of the bathtub taper down, and the weed hanging straight down. It's like a curtain. Go get a mask, fin, and snorkel. I'll get back to that in a second. You can just swim over the top at dead low tide and look down and see a bathtub. The bubbleweed covered it. As you look and swim by, lobsters, forget the fish. Lobsters, the good stuff. Big dogs, over 5-pounders. You'll see their fat asses sticking out. You'll see antennas sticking out. Sometimes you won't see them, but just dive down. When you dive down, always pull the snorkel from your mouth. If you don't pull the snorkel from your mouth, bloop, 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 every fish around you, they take off like Speedy Gonzalez and run away. That's why you see all them free divers on YouTube, shooting all kinds of big. They never have they put the snorkel back in the mouth as they're almost back up to the surface. Mask. If you don't have a mask and you buy a mask, you want to buy a mask with black silicone, one piece of glass. Take the back of the strap, pull it over the front of the mask. Just put the mask up to your face, inhale through your nostrils, and the mask will just right to your face. It fits your face. No matter what it looks like, that's your mask. It won't leak. Leaky masks will drive you crazy. Snorkel. The snorkel doesn't have to be long. It could be short, but they come like, the bore. The bore. You want a bigger bore as you can get. It doesn't have to be 2 feet long. That's not necessary. It's flat as a pancake where I'm telling you about. The water's very clear. You don't have any fresh water muddying. The water can get crazy clear. But at night, the lobsters come out and they're walking around all over the place. They find a place to hide. They're there. They're not going to leave it. They got a lot of enemies that want to eat them. Striped bass, monkfish, whole boatload of critters want to eat them. Okay. When your fins, I have 2 pairs. I have the jet fins, like you see the Navy SEALs wearing. They're like $200, but they're bulletproof. And if you buy them and you ever want to sell them, everybody wants to buy them. You buy a pistol, you buy a Colt, you buy a python, you ever want to sell it. It's the same thing with fishing stuff. You know what I mean? You buy you that high-end piece, and once you have them, oh, God, you're going to love them. And those free-diving fins, them big, long, goofy-looking things, I got a pair of those. Buy them. The first time you put them on, the first time you swim in the water with them, you ain't going to believe it. You're going to hear the water gushing by your ears, and you've never heard that before in your life. You're going to swim like there's some kind of propeller pushing you. And they're not like the other fins. These are long, soft, easy stroke, and they recoil. That's why they're so long. And you'll feel that recoil pushing you faster than any other fin. Again, it happened to me in the middle of the winter in the Duxbury High School swimming pool. I could hear the water gushing by my ears. I never swam that fast before in my life. Get those fins. And the catch bag you're going to put the lobsters in, you're really going to need a catch bag. A high school girl can do this. They're there now. You can kill them there tomorrow. Oh, yes, you can. And you will load up. The catch bag, you're going to want a polyball, because if you're swimming around, you got 8, 9 lobsters in that bag, you're it's really going to hinder you. You can only use one hand. If you got the polyball and you got the catch bag, and just let it hang. Just let it hang. And you're going to have to get, some rubber bands and a tender to put them on. Because when you take them out of the bag, they're all clamping and biting onto one another. And believe me, there's dozens and dozens of those bathtubs. And you can load up. Oh, yes, you can. I guarantee it. You don't need an F-350 and a Power Stroke to do this. All you need is a Prius, and you can get them. When you take the lobsters and you put them in the cooler for the ride home, again, you want to do all this work and do stuff half-assed. We don't do half-assed. Nothing. The first layer of lobsters you put in the cooler, you put them in upside down. Otherwise, their face and that melting freshwater ice, they're all dead.
Yep.
They're still good. You got to cook them right away. But you don't have to do that. But the first row in upside down, the rest of them right side up. And as you load them up, okay, the enemy of ice is air. We all know that. Here's how you handle that the best way I know how. You might find a better way, and that'll work for you. Okay, break open a couple of bags of ice. Spread it out all over them. Get some of that. Some guys use burlap bags. And I don't like them. I don't use them. I don't use them. Get a towel, an old towel, and pretend this was the cooler right here, this edge. Take the wet towel and lay it over the top of all the bugs and tuck it in the corners. Take some time, you know, that magic word again, patience, and tuck them all in. Take care of the kids. That's what I call it, the kids. Those trash bags, those big, giant, extra heavy-duty, industrial-grade trash bags, get one. You can reuse it over and over. Tuck that plastic. There's your separation between the warm air and keeping it. Do not open that cooler until you get home. Until you're ready. Spread them out all over the tailgate of the truck. This is how I ran my boat for a long, long time. Spread them all out. Cheat should go first. If you got a 16-pound, 14, well, obviously that's his. You pick the big one, next biggest one, then you go, then I go, then you, and it goes around. Everybody's got big, medium, small, everybody even. There's no hard feelings. Mm-hmm. Whether you were a new diver, you didn't do that good. And you tell him, too, when he's on your boat, you know, I'm going to be asking you to do some stuff, you know, and I've done it all myself 500 times. I'm not barking orders at you like you work for me, but, you know, you'll learn. You'll become part of the team if you want to keep doing this, you know. Don't feel slighted by me asking you what to do. You know, we all do it. You know, you'll enjoy it more. You become part of the team. You know, like when you launch the boat. I had a 25-foot center console, the fib fab, and I had a 21-foot long piece of rope I had custom made for me. I put it over the post of the boat. Then I put it on the cleat of the boat. And I backed it up to the water. Then I took the safety hook off, pulled back the ratchet, popped the hook off. You know, the strap is off too. And I'm right at the edge of the water, backing into the water, hit the brakes. The boat would roll right off, hits the rope, pulls back up onto the one hand. You can just step out, put a foot on it, push it off, spin it around, bring it down the dock, tie it off. And then when you come back to take the boat out of the water, have a 2x10 or 2x12 piece of pressure-treated wood and some big U-bolts and put it inside the trailer. And then the power winch, and you have little stainless steel screw eyes along and a piece of stainless steel wire running all the way to the back corner of that trailer. You back the boat up into the trailer into the water, walk down the board, pull the boat over to you, pop the hook in, right at the edge of the trailer. You can wear a suit and brand new boots, brand new shoes. Reach down, grab the wire, pull the little wire that's screwed in alongside the board, all the way at the end, pull the wire up, and keep walking back, looking back for one hand, reach down, a finger, pull the whole thing back on, put the safety hook on, go home. Bone dry, never get your feet wet. You watch some guys at the ramp like, well, they got it together, you know. Yeah. Provincetown, you want to get some squid? Yeah. We all know about the squid at the dock. You see some soccer moms pull up and all the kids bail out, you know, with like a pack of beagles. They're all going to go squid fishing. Oh, it looks like so much fun. They're so excited. You know what I mean? They start catching them and, oh, they just, oh, yeah, by the way, McMillan's Wharf, walk down almost all the way to the end on the right-hand side, and there's a boardwalk that goes down, and then there's a flat dock. And right at the end of the flat dock, early in the morning, take one of those big, giant, fresh, dead squids. Yet there's no current. You don't need any lead. Just drop them down. You'd be shocked at the size of some of the bass you can catch under that pier 4 o'clock in the morning. Yep. Oh, yeah.
Boatmart is the online marketplace built to help you find your next boat. From the last fall striper blitz to next spring's first cast, Boatmart is here to get you on the water. With thousands of listings from fishing boats to pontoons, cruisers to sailboats, Boatmart has something for everyone. Listings from fishing boats to pontoons, cruisers to sailboats, Boatmart has something for every boater and every adventure. As the official marketplace partner of On the Water, we make it simple to find your next boat. Visit boatmart.com today to search for your next boat, or check them out in the classifieds tab on onthewater.com to find your next fishing boat.
Yeah, they show up in the race sometimes too. I had a couple of years where I, up on Race Point, like I said, there was the gaggle of regulars there, and one of the guys, he was a New Yorker. His name was Carmine. I never got his last name. I asked him one time. You know, I'm like, hey, Mike Luccini, you're Italian, right? Yeah, this and that and everything.
Oh, yeah, real thick accent from Brooklyn.
What's your last name? My name's Carmine, and that's all you need to know. That's what he told me, right? So I found like some of the guys had, you know, business ventures back in the city.
Did you know who he really was?
I bet he was.
Did you know who he really was?
I didn't know who he really was.
When you shut the camera off, I'll tell you who he really was.
Yeah.
And he gave Nat Piazzi the Suburban, and it was all covered with Rusty Jones. Yep. And he didn't want it because if you touched it, you'd have all this sticky.
Yeah, literally.
But
it was like a giant Suburban.
It was,
and it was painted black wheels, black tires, and all the paint was like Rust-Oleum on it. And that's what I asked Nate one time.
I'm like, 300 years, and there was nothing would ever rust.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I'm like, why'd you paint it like that? He goes, because I don't want no one near it and no one touching my stuff. It means stay away.
Yeah.
And apparently he got the paint from this guy, Carmine. But going back to the squid story, again, I was like the young guy coming out there, and I think Carmine must have been tight with Donnie Musso Sr. Like some of the New York guys would bring the Musso plugs up or the Super Strike plugs up before plastic or at the very beginning of plastic.
Beachmasters.
And this guy would come up, and everybody down there was making money, whether you were picking sand eels up in 5-gallon pails, selling them to Top Knot. We'll talk about him after too. We can't have a session without. And so Carmine would come up with a box full of
best
Super Strike needlefish
on planet Earth.
And he'd be like, he's like, come on over here. He goes, yeah. He goes, I know you're the young guy. You're trying to learn. And, you know, I had a few bucks with me. And he sold me a couple like green needlefish. He goes, but if you want the real good one, he goes, this is it. He goes, now, when you walk away, he's like, put it in your pocket. Don't go be stupid and tie it on the end of your rod so everybody can see it. He goes, put it in your shirt. And he goes, when you go out at night, after it gets dark, put it on and go up the race because there's squid in there. And it was like it wasn't that amber, like, you know, like the Adam 40, the clear. It wasn't that. It was like a different type of a red squid color. I never seen it anywhere before. And it was almost like weird at how aggressive the fish would hit that thing versus
like
the white.
Like a rusty red, like a deep.
You can get them now. They're in production now. But like back when the Super Strike, I think when they first started making molded lures, I think this was kind of like towards the beginning of going from wood to molded plastic. And those are the guys that had them. They weren't in the tackle shops on the Cape. The New Yorkers would bring them up and they sell them. And then a few years later, you would start seeing them in the shops. And so I was up on the race, you know, in a line of people. Nobody, and, you know, sometimes people would cast over your line and snag. If you're doing pretty good, like they'd snag your line and like you'd be close enough where you could get over the guy next to you.
See what you were fishing.
See what you were fishing with. And then he's like, make sure, he goes, you have a Penn 650 SS. He's like, take the clicker out of it so nobody can hear your drag screaming. He goes, because it's going to be screaming if you throw that thing out there, right? So start whacking fish on that. And I'm still new to it. And along comes Bob Lipka, Top Knot.
Another Provincetown
An absolute
character.
legend. I mean, we could talk a whole
legend and
hour
a half,
about
man.
this guy.
He was something else.
Yep.
Oh, man.
If you never heard of him, he's remarkably talented, charismatic. He passed away, God rest his soul. But he was, so he wouldn't even fish. He would pull up in the back of all the surf fishermen, and he'd walk up and down the line with the big fat roll of cash. And as you drag the fish out of the water, he would come up to you with the scale, and he would buy the fish off you right on the spot.
Cash.
You know, and he'd come, and this guy was a pistol. He was like energetic, just like he was
wound
completely
up
off the
tighter
walls
than a
all the
snare
time.
drum.
And he'd come
He
up, he goes,
was.
you got a bass? You got a bass? I want the bass. $1.50 a pound cash. He goes, Matt Cost is paying $1.25. I'm giving you $1.50. $1.50 cash right on the spot. And then he would count, 20-pound bass, $1.50, $30, 20, 21, 22, 20. And he'd count it off and hand it to you. Thank you, my friend, for doing business, right? So, and literally he'd come off the beach at night. This is before there was limits on anything. You could take as many fish as you wanted. I think it was a 36-inch limit. He'd come off the beach with the cooler full of fish, having never taken a cast. And then he would take the fish to the restaurants and bypass the wholesalers. He'd go to the back doors of the restaurants and sell all the fish. So devious mind I had and a couple of my buddies, we started becoming pretty decent fishermen, and we started bringing, back when I started, we were talking about this earlier, like the moratorium fish, those 82 year class fish, which was the first big moratorium, they were just under the line. We called them under the line as like just barely shorts. They were like 33, 34 inches. You catch them all night, every night. Like, I can't get a keeper. I can't get a keeper. I can't get a keeper. And then finally, those fish matured and they turned into that big fishery that we had for, 10 or 15 years. We had a pretty remarkable fishery. So out at the Cape, we started catching those fish on the backside of the Cape in boats, and we started getting pretty good numbers of them. And then we were always friendly with Top Knot. He'd always be like, hey, bring me a fish, bring me a couple fish, I gotta make money. And then he'd lost his leg. I forget how he lost the bottom half of his leg, and he had a prosthetic leg. And he used to joke, I'm the cripple, you got to help the cripple out. Bring the cripple some fish. I need some cripple.
You'd never believe that he had an artificial leg. You'd see him run. And you'd look at his leg, and it was blaze orange.
Yeah.
And
he had this little dog in the front seat. So he used to take the fish from us and go to the restaurants with him. And like my buddy Stevie voicing that and I, and my friend John Farrell, we're kind of like... taking them from us for $1.50 and going to the restaurant for $2.50. Huh. Let's go take a ride to the restaurants, right? So we wind up, at one point John had a black book with all the restaurant names in them and all the phone numbers of all the chefs that wanted to buy fresh striped bass. And then some of them, we would get $2.50 a pound cash. And I was, like I said, in those days, the fish were big. You get a 40-pounder, it's a $100 bill. That's a lot of money back in 1990, 91, 90. It's a lot of money now.
Oh, yeah.
So
one fish, man? Absolutely.
Yeah. So now we figured the whole thing out, and we called it the Gauntlet. So Top Knot called it the Gauntlet, meaning you take all the fish, you go to all the restaurants, and we kind of caught on to what he was doing. So we bypassed him, and we got our extra $1 a pound on top of the $1.50 he was giving us. And there wasn't a lot of conflict early on, but when we started getting more and more fish, like those 82 class fish matured. So now instead of you might go out on a good day. We were eel fishing out of the boats in the daytime, and you might get 2 or 3 fish all day, but they were the big, big ones. Now those fish started mixing in. So now we're getting 10, 12, 15, 18 fish a day, like, mid-20s and low 30s, right? And the market's starting
and
to fill up.
The closer you drift towards that pot line, the bigger the fish get.
So anyways, we go out we know the weekend's coming and the restaurants are going to be buying fish, because he would always hit us up on Thursday. You got to get me Thursday, load me up. I need fish for the restaurant. So we're like, okay. So we go to all the restaurants like on Thursday, and we just load everybody up. I mean, we dumped off probably 20-something fish. And we bump into him at the end of the night. He's going, "You got fish for me? You got fish? I need fish. I need fish. I need money. I'm a freaking cripple. I need money. I need money." You know, all sideways. And we're like, "Yeah, we only got like 3 or 4 today. I want them. I want them. The restaurants want them. I want those fish." So we're looking at each other like, we're going to just totally stick it to him, but we'll make it up to him, right? So we're all laughing. So he takes we had like 3 or 4 fish, big ones. And so he pays us cash, the $1.50 a pound, thinking he's going to go get $2.50. And then he goes through the Gauntlet and finds that the Gauntlet had already been smothered by somebody else, right? So he's got the fish in the cooler. And then the next day, he figures out that it was us because he's like asking for a description of the assailants, right? Who was it? It was a young kid and an older guy with gray hair and blah, blah, blah. So we go to Nelson's in the morning, and we see his truck coming in, like 90 miles an hour. He comes up, jams it in park, opens the door, the Isuzu.
Yeah.
"You son of a... You hit the Gauntlet, you flooded the market, and you stuck me with the extra. You stuck me with the extra. You stuck me with the extra. You robbed a cripple. I'm a cripple, for Christ's sake. Rob, because you're taking money out of my pocket." He's going like on and on and on. We turn around, we're like blue in the face. We're laughing so hard. "Now I know what kind of guys you really are. You sons of bitches is what you are." So he's like off the absolute charts. And we kind of huddle up afterwards and we're like, "Hey, why don't we'll bring him like 2 or 3 fish tomorrow and we'll make the peace with them." So at the end of the next day, we had a few fish, and he had a little apartment building. He was good to us. He would let us come over the apartment. He would cook dinner. He goes, "You guys can shower up. I know you're down here for like a week sleeping in the back of your truck."
No.
And
Yes. If I see it
but
on
it was
eBay, I'll kill you.
always, he always had not a scam, but like he was a hustler. He always had something going on. He'd be cooking people meals on the beach. He would take the fish that we caught and put them on top of the cooler. And then, "Hey, come out with me. You can catch a fish like this." He'd bring the people out on the beach. He'd cook them dinner, put the rods in the sand.
Yeah.
And he would have this big, fat roll of cash always on him, ready to peel it off. "Let's make a deal. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do this." But the Gauntlet scandal, we still laugh about that now. We go away in the summertime. Like Stevie and John and I are still buddies. We always tell the story.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
What a time and a place to fish. That you talk about the community, you talk about the New York guys, the selling the fish to the restaurants. I mean, there's nothing like it now. How it's this kind of tight-knit community that you had out there. I feel like we had it in the canal for a couple years when it was really good. You had some of you had the cast of characters there and the regulars there.
Definitely.
But I've heard those stories. I've heard about how you told the story about fishing with Mike in the wetsuit. And that was around the time that it seemed like a lot of these Outer Cape guys were transitioning to the rocks and the sand and the canal because that fishing was drying up with the seals and all that. Do you still fish the Outer Cape at all? Or
I can tell you, I probably haven't surf fished out there since 2001 or 2. I went out there, it was right after 9/11. My friend Tom Murphy, I think he might be in one of Dano's books. He was... He worked for IBM, New Yorker. I mean, this guy was he was a gem. If there was a gem, he was a gem. I think he described himself as an original humorist. Like he could come up with like a laughable joke. He goes, "I'm so broke right now, it's going to take me 20 years after I die to pay back all my debts." He would always have something and have everybody chuckling. And then one night he called me, I think it was 2001 or 2002. He's like, "Mikey, high head on the drop. They're in there good. And it wound up being that was the last time I went out there. That was like the biggest night of surf fish from like a sandy beach on Cape Cod that I ever got. And you know what happened to me at the end of the night? It was right when braided line came out. So I didn't have enough braid. I had that rod that I was fishing with now, a 30-pound braid on it. And it was in the middle of the blitz and I got spooled. And it doesn't mean it was like a 70-pounder. It just means I made a really long cast and I didn't have a lot of line left on the reel to back up the run. And the fish kind of went like northeast off the beach. A lot of times they would just run down the beach and you would just walk down the beach and you have the fish parallel and then the wave would throw them up. You know, you'd be like, that wasn't much of like. Sometimes they would just come right in on a plane. You horse them up. This one went straight out and took all my line. And that was after we beached at least 12, 15, like big fish, like 30. There was no 50s, but there was 30s and 40s. That was like September
I asked Stan
19th,
Gibbs
2001 or
before
2.
if he ever got spooled, you know, and he said, there's one fish. I knew it. He got one. He said Ballston Beach, and it was a full moon. He said I was throwing the 3-ounce yellow darter. I had the squidder. He said I was all alone. He said there's nobody there. He said, you know, my body, I was casting a shadow on the sand. We've seen that. Of course you have. And he said he hooked it. He said, thank God it didn't take off straight, because it would have just bang, you know, pop you off, take it all. And he said, I seen it in the surf. I got in the water and it would swim like right by me. And I'd see it go out. And he said, it's got to be 70 pounds, at least 70 pounds. And he said he fought it for like an hour and a half. He said I was young, I had waders on. I'm running, trying to get some line back. I ain't got nothing left. And he said the hook's pulled. And I went, I know the feeling. You want to get down on your hands, you feel like you want to vomit. You know, like you're not right for a couple of days. I know. Yeah, I do.
The Cape too, even talking to Sharapo, I mean, he was there during the 70s. He was there all the way back. And I remember him telling me, he said, right now is the best the fishing's ever been. This was like in the late 80s, early 90s. He goes, you hear all the stories about the 70s. And he goes, we had years in the 70s where 50, 60 pounders. He goes, but the fishing overall in the 70s wasn't as good overall as it is now. He said, I think he said 77, 78. If you read 20 Years on the Cape, Frank Dano, that's like when they slammed him down there on the backside in the summertime. And then I don't know what he said about 80, but he said 81, November 3rd, 1981 is when Stetsko caught the world record and a state record, right?
Poach it whole.
November 3rd, 1981.
Black beauty fly ahead of his live eel.
Was that the same year as the there was the
He
big
caught a
blitz down there
60
too? Where they had the Columbus Day Massacre on the Vineyard, but I think that same year they had a big blitz on Nauset too.
Yeah, it could have been. I know it was in 1981. That's when Stetsko, and that was before the beach broke, when you could go all the way down. That's like the next year is when I started surf fishing. A friend of mine took me out for the weekend because like he was at the club where my father worked.
Oh,
And my father would be like, "Oh, my kid's a fanatic about fishing. You got to take him out there."
about the vineyard, there was this guy, some fishing with worms for big bass, Sergei Disomov.
Mm-hmm.
He was the Mad Russian. He won the Vineyard Derby when you could, bass. 65, 66, 67, and 69. He won the Derby. And Paul Schultz knew him good. Said all he fished with was worms.
Yep.
Worms. He'd find a deep, deep hole, like a real honey hole. He'd stake it out. He'd park his camper there. He had a bait in the water like 24/7. And he said he fished with a huge tackle.
Yep.
Like 60-pound everything.
Yeah. When I started, there was I think it was called Bridge Bait and Tackle. That was down. It was in Fall River.
Yeah, it was on Main Street.
Yeah, the
I
first
got
time
my
I went
first
out
cane
surf
pole in
fishing.
there. You walked in the front door, you turned around and looked up above the doorway, and there was cane poles in this
Yeah.
one.
So this
My
guy
first-
tied up.
I got to tell you this one, I'll forget it. I went with my mother, my brother, my sister. It was my grandfather's house and the house where my mother grew up. The house right next door, they had a yard sale. They pulled in, and I'm wearing the family station wagon. I was 9, I might have been 10 years old. I'm sitting on the car. I didn't even get out. I could see the table and, kitchenware and salt and pepper shakers and all that. And I'm not getting out. I'm just sitting on the passenger seat of the car looking out the window, not moving. And I thought, well, I'll get out and I'll ask this older woman with white hair. And I walked up to her and I said to her, do you have any fishing stuff for sale? And she went, no, nothing. I turned around and started walking. She goes, oh, Sonny, wait a minute. She goes, there is a fishing pole in the cellar. Now, at the time, I had a Zebco 33. I had graduated from the 202. I don't think I wasn't 11. I was 10, maybe 9. Anyway, she says, hold on a minute. She's gone for like 10 minutes into the cellar. She come out of the cellar and she had a 2-piece fishing pole, like together in the line. There's all dust, all the reels covered with dust. And as soon as I saw what she had in her hand, it kind of made me a little angry, like, lady, I can't afford that, you know? And I looked at it, and I looked at the woman, I said, I don't have the money to buy that. Come on. You know, like, why don't you bring her to... And she looked at me and said, how much money do you have, Sonny? $2.46. And she says, you got just enough.
Was that bridge?
I got in the car, the passenger side. I wrapped my legs over the top of it. I put my head down. I'm yelling up at the window to my mother, Ma, can we just leave? I'm looking up. There's got to be some big guy coming running over. Hey, kid, give me back that fish. Where do you think you're going with for that? And it was a Garcia Mitchell 300, like real close to mint, and a Abu Garcia 5-star common rod. I had a better fishing pole than my dad now. I held that thing in my hands. I felt like I had Darth Vader's lightsaber. And jelly worms. I was just a little kid. I was walking with my dad. We took a walk on. He always brought a pistol and we'd plink some cans and stuff like that. Take the dog for a walk. And it was the second time I saw this. We walked up to this guy and he had a white bucket and he was fishing. And he was just standing. He wasn't even reeling in nothing. And my dad says to him, you know, did you get any bites? Just being friendly to some guy. He goes, oh yeah, I got a good one. And I looked into the 5-gallon. I must have almost shit my pants because the tail, even though it was slumped in, the tail was right up at the edge. And when I looked down into the bucket, it was like touching the sides. I didn't think that there's no place on the planet could they get that big, let alone in here. You got to be shitting me. And I said, my father said, what'd you catch them on? And the guy held up a package. And it was man's jelly worm in a grape color. And I said to myself, oh, I'm going to get some of those. The first jelly worm, where'd it come from? Akron, Ohio, 1959. Nick Cream in his garage. And that was the birth of the scoundrel. I remember it was me, my dad, my mom, the whole family. We went fishing at Big Bear Pond in Massasoit State Park. And there was a man fishing over there, and he was casting along the bank, and it was all stumps all sticking up. All of a sudden, this huge bass, and it was like he speed reeled, but it was splashing all the way in. And he came walking by, and he was holding it by the bottom jaw. And I was just a little boy. I looked at him, and I said, can I have that? My mother's like, don't ask him that. I said, what did you catch it on? Cream worm. You know, and when they first came out, and he was selling them for $1. And his friend said to him, you can't sell those for $1. I said, what do you mean I can't? I can't make them fast enough. Come home, I got all these trucks parked all over my lawn. I can't even get in the house. They'll buy every worm I have. What do you mean I can't? You can't send, you're a scoundrel. That's where the name came from. You know? It's like wacky worm fishing, you know?
Yeah.
Lake Fork.
Yep.
Kid from New York. I don't remember where I read it. I might have read it in your magazine. Kids from New York. Gets to Texas. It's Lake Fork. Never caught a fish. Wants to go fishing. All enthusiastic. Goes to the tackle shop and the guy says, no, I'm not taking out fishing. Can't catch nothing. Fishing dead as a mackerel. Nothing. Kid says, well, I want to go anyway. You know, this is my, now or never. I'm here. Okay, here's the boat. Here's the pole. Kid says, what do I fish with? Guy's got kind of an attitude, I guess, and takes the package of worms, hands it to him, hands him the hooks, and says, go ahead. Kid came back a few hours later, walked over to the dock, looking down. Figured, you didn't get nothing. Squat. He looked down and he didn't release anything. He didn't know. The whole bottom of the boat is covered with slobs. He can't even, what the? He says, you gotta be, how did you catch him on? Kid's like, caught him in the worm. And the hook you give, well, you didn't show him how to worm. You didn't show him to expose, did you? What the kid do? He didn't know. Nobody showed him. He took the worm, took the hook, stabbed it in the middle, threw it out, wacky worm fishing. And when he held up the worm and the hook in the middle and showed it to the guy up on the dock, he looked down and he says, that's the wackiest thing I ever seen. That's the birth of it. Hey, let me talk about secret weapons. Oh, secret weapons.
You guys need to put the black curtain up in front of the cameras here.
All
Okay.
pixelated.
Yep.
This is just a 3/4 ounce, kind of a bluegill colored jig and pig. We all got our ways of doing little intricate things and wacky with our own stuff. I take my jigs. I know there's guys swear by the beast jigs and all this. They all work. They all work.
Catch big fish.
Take the weed guard, spread the weed guard apart, pull it. Now the way the weed guard comes up over the hook like so, take your scissors, trim it. You might lose a jig now and again, but they're relatively inexpensive. Hold the jig up like so. Take your scissors, trim around it. So you're making the jig like an upside, the ice cream cone, the Christmas tree shape. When you put it in the pool, I talked about the pool before. When you put it in the pool now with it all feathered, you'll see the whole thing shimmying, not just one big blob bouncing along. Kenny Abrams, you talked about this quite a bit in your book, Striper Moon, about the flies and the Ely fly. Never put more than 4 feathers. And he's right. The needlefish lure, 3 feathers. Maybe 4. Chinese salco had feathers.
You're saying on the sidewash hook, on the tail hook?
Oh, yes, sir.
So no more than
Yep.
4.
Never.
Okay.
Nope.
Because I
And
tie a lot of my own.
Even splay them.
You put them on,
so
yeah.
that they're
You put
feathered
'em so
out
they
this
curl
way.
out.
You know what I mean? Like when you make a lefty's deceiver and the way you're peeling up on the feather and trimming it,
Yep.
and you're taking 2 equal sides and you're putting them together. Then you add 2 more, so you got 4 feathers. Like that's making your tail.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you already laid down your base on your wrap, and then you're laying it up on the top, wrapping it up. I think the half and half fly is the most badass. The Clouser fly was created by Clouser in Pennsylvania to get down deep in the fast-moving water for the smallmouth bass.
And the Susquehanna River, yep.
Yeah. And then it just took off from there. Great fly, but they're really bad in your fly rod because if they hit your rod tip, well, I see 2 bobbing heads.
Yep.
So,
Or they hit you in the back of the head because you suck at fly casting.
I've done both.
Get a wind
I've got
gust.
a rod tip and I've got myself square in the back of the head.
okay,
But-
the pork frog, we talked about this before, and I told you if the water's 65 degrees, if it's 60 degrees, I have some old pork rinds.
Uncle Josh,
Oh,
number
I love
11s, right?
number 11.
Number 1s and number 11s.
Yeah, and I take this is a Lake Fork. I take if I got an original pork rind, Uncle Josh number 11, for me the big fish color was the black jig and the purple frog. But whatever works for you. If the water's really dark, then you go with your black and your blue. If the water's clear, relatively clear, your basic, your bluegill colors, you know what I mean? But put it on a little cutting board, and the pork frog, take a knife on a 45-degree angle and cut some of that head off so you make it slope. So when the hook goes into it, it's really hoping instead of the big, I'm exaggerating to try to prove a point, instead of being this big thicky chunk, it's just a little piece. And you know how tough that pork is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Trying to wrestle with getting you don't have to about getting weak. And now in the pool, you'll see it. It's really coming off the hook. It's really dancing.
Yeah, so just to describe it for anybody that's listening, the pork frogs you're describing, it's like a chunk of, the pork rind is the skin, but then there's a big chunk of meat at the front of it. And by shaving that down, it's going to create more of a fluttering.
Now instead of being the big thick chunk, it's going to be tapered because you're going to cut on a little serrated knife, the little Victorinox with the red handle. I've been using that thing, cut up like millions of pork frogs with it. And cut as a wedge, and you can actually hold it up down and take the knife and push it through, and the serrated edge you'll get like 2 of them, and it'll actually make the hook hole a little bit bigger and a lot easier to change. And then split the pork frog all the way up to the chunk in the middle, cut it, and then the legs, cut them all the way up to the chunk. Now the legs are really going to be a whole lot more dancing on the bottom. Secret weapons. And divulge in them. That's okay. I don't mind. Best fish scent. I'm not going to say I had them all, but I had quite a few of them. Smelly jelly. Crawdad. Open that up and you will smell crawdad. And the squid even more, though I don't see them with the squid on him. There's herring and they add glitter to some of it. But when you put this stuff here and you've made 40 casts with it, you can still take it and dunk it in the water and pull it and see the oil come off. No matter how cold it is, the pond's frozen over. It's early spring, late winter. The north side of the pond is always going to melt first because of the sun on the south side. Cast it in the wintertime, small jig, little guy, 1/4 ounce, little bitty jig. Don't worry about it, elephants and peanuts. Mm-hmm. Cast the jig out onto the ice. Hold the rod tip high, bring it like this, it gets to the edge, you pull it, it's going to drop, throw the clutch, pull the line off, you feel it hit the bottom. Sometimes all you have to do is crawl it, and you're moving at the speed of I'm right-handed. You're turning the bait casting handle. Patience is the only edge I think I got. And discipline. I got boatloads of that. I know I do. And you turn the handle this fast, you'll feel, even if you make a mistake, even if you already drank 10 beers, it ain't gonna matter. So long as you put a good blast of smelly jelly on it, and he's tasting that crawdad, and he's chewing on that pork rind, he ain't gonna let it go.
Yep.
And again, how long do we let him crank it down a little bit? Let him have it.
Just let him pull the
and
rods up over.
I wouldn't say I really put the boots to him. Other people tell me I do. But I reel him up to get him in. Why do I do that? I do that to get him in so when I go to release him, I want to see the fish bolt out of my fingers. I don't want to be there for 15 minutes trying to revive them and they die on you. And we know what a shitty, lousy feeling that is. Mm-hmm. It sucks. Yep. It happens. But I don't want it to happen.
Despite your best intentions.
Get them in, release them, let them go.
Yep.
Maybe a quick picture. I don't even bring a tape measure.
No, they do. The fish do pretty well in the cold.
Yeah. It's when
and then I guess seg towards my favorite time of year to fish is when it's cold out because I think that's the best fishing of the year, believe it or not, for average size and
March
quantity.
gives out more state pins than the other month.
I'm talking even going back to November, December, January, February. Those are my favorite months to freshwater bass fish.
Really?
And I've got, my PB fish was like an October fish. And I've got some PB caliber. My best 2 months are like October. And then you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong in April. That's when they're, especially the herring run fish, they're fat.
Do you mind if we talk about the 3 big ponds? And the 3 I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about them?
Yeah, and I do cold, like I was leaning, like going towards cold water fishing, particularly jerkbait fishing.
My mother died 2 years ago. We buried my mother April 10th. Well,
oh, I know what you're talking about now.
April 12th.
Yeah.
So he took me to this inn. I'm okay with telling the name of it, but I'll leave it up to you. We go to this pond, me and him. I'd never been here before. We're down these dirt roads out in the woods in this fancy, shiny new truck. Now I'm looking out through this pond. What's the first thing I notice? No houses abutting the pond. What does that mean? That means no fertilizer, no pesticides, nothing. They're not even putting nothing in there. Oh, hey, there's a heron run that comes in here too. Oh boy. Oh yeah. All right. We
You know, and it's the end of April when they're coming up.
You can't make this up. You get to the heron run, and I'm looking around at like, it's beautiful. It's so peaceful out here in the woods. I mean, it didn't get any better than this, you know? You know, I'm with my good friend, man. We've known one another for decades. I got big respect for you. You a badass fisherman, okay? All of a sudden I heard a noise. I turn around. There's 2 wild turkeys. Big, giant, big, huge beards hanging off them. I could have spit on them. They're so close. And they're not even hustling to get by me. They're moving real slow, like just looking at you. And I'm leaning against the railing on my left side. I'm leaning against the railing. I'm looking down at the heron run. And there's a stream down below. And they're styled into the water's black. Black.
I'm talking
The heron.
jacked.
Wait.
Jacked.
Here we go. You ready? Down the wormhole we go. I'm looking at, I'm watching this. I'm watching the heron come up the very end of the ladder. They're going into the pond. And all of a sudden I heard, don't you love this? When your buddy's going, Bill. He's got his hands up. Oh my God. I said, oh boy, what? He's pointing into the water. And I just walk over slow. I look in the water. Oh my God. Oh. And he goes, that one's 7 pounds. The water's this deep.
Yeah.
This deep with a bright sandy bottom. There isn't a speck of seaweed within 15-foot radius of him. And I'm just looking at this humongous tank. Nope. I don't agree with your thinking. He's every ounce of 8 pounds. Every ounce. And there's 2 kids and a girl. And they had the little plastic bucket with the little trout chinas. And they're sitting on the end. And I want to take my thumb and I want to take a treble hook off and snag a heron. I did. I wanted to put it in the water and feed them off and be doing this. Oh, come on. I've been, please help me, please. I've been good. All right. And as I'm standing there just looking at it, and I don't even cast to it because don't bother. And I'm just eyeballing them. And there was 2 bushes on the right-hand side, right as the chute came over. 2 bush, and there's a bunch of duckweed. You know how the duckweed hugs the bush? All right, I'm standing there looking, and I can still see this humongous monster. And I'm looking at you. I'll let him go.
He's like, yeah, he goes,
all right, here it comes.
Do you have
It
a
gets
treble
worse.
hook in the truck?
It gets way worse. What crawls out from underneath the duckweed? And you look at it, and you said,
Another one.
in a whisper, yeah, that one's bigger. That's 8 pounds.
Yeah, they were sitting at
And
the
I
run.
said, that's over 9 pounds. That might be double digits. And I'm staring at it like I'm looking at you, brother. And I'm eyeballing him. He looks like a goddamn Abrams tank. He's got shoulders on him. I was, oh my God.
It's
and
probably
what did I
right
catch?
before the
That was
spawn,
like the
too.
biggest pickerel I ever caught. I'd caught one other 27-inch pickerel on a gold spoon when I was like 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah, and we're watching these fish as they come up the river over the steps, and those 2 fish were out 10 or 15 feet off the bank.
Oh, really?
Then the herring would come over and scurry, and then all of a sudden you would see like, it almost looked like a striper boiling on the top, and then you'd see all the scales coming down through the water.
Like a bluefin.
No, they would, and then they'd circle back around and set back up. And so we get done fishing at that spot, and we're driving silently. Like we're thinking the exact same thing. And he's like, I just had a fantasy about what it would have been like to get that treble hook and grab one of those herring. And he goes, and if those kids didn't come along, he goes, I don't know what would have happened.
I know what would have happened. I know what would have happened. Yeah.
So we go another 100 feet and we're not saying anything. I'm just like looking straight ahead. I'm laughing my ass off. And he just looks over and he goes, and I know you were thinking the exact same thing. So we go to the next pond. And that was a pond where he got some big, it's a small pond, but it's just got a little mini herring run in it that you wouldn't even detect.
Yeah, but even the bluegills were humongous.
The bluegills
because
were
when
like dinner
when the
plates.
fry are first born.
Yeah.
Here they are with shoals.
Yep.
Shoals
Giant
of all
fish,
this.
little pond. And I've documented like a bunch of 6-pound fish out of there. Like in a little pond, sometimes you go in and you keep catching the same 6-pounder.
Yeah.
I got another 6, I got another 6, and it's the same fish. I take them when I get the big ones and I put them on a board. So if you look at a lot of my Instagrams, I put them on a board so you can see the scale pattern and the length and the tail and the body, and So I have documented at least a half a dozen different 6-pound class fish. It's like I don't even think it's a 30-acre pond.
Wow.
So I take him over there and I'm like, let's go take a walk through the woods. And what I do in the spring, I mean, I fish all winter. You guys, like I start fishing in November.
Mm-hmm.
November to, and I'll fish as long as there's no ice. And I'm fishing mostly 7, 8, 10 foot or shallower ponds, just so I know I can get the jerk bait into the lower third of the water column, right? So if you have a 6-foot jerk bait in a 10-foot pond, you're in the zone. Yeah, at least you're in the zone where you can get them to come up and strike. And then they'll grow in over the winter. And then when I come out there in the springtime, I take my snips with me and I'll snip these little hatches so I can get into the water in my waders, but obscure enough so people don't figure out, okay, this is where you get them. So I'm snipping my way in and I turn around and look back and he's just walking like literally. You ever see the Godzilla movies? Creature double feature when he walks through the power lines.
Just covered in thorns.
Yeah, the poles snap over and the power lines are sparking and everything like that.
I've done that before.
He's literally just coming through and I'm like, oh my God. We literally get to the clearing and I look at his arms and he has blood, like someone slashed him with a knife all the way down on both arms. And he's got blood dripping off his fingertips. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude. He goes, don't worry about it. I'm okay. He cleans up. I mean, he had lashes on his forearms. We get into the spot, and as luck would have it, we didn't get into the really big ones that day.
I was woefully unprepared.
Yeah.
Well, I buried my mother 2 days before. No. What do? You still go back to fishing. And I said this before, I think I did. I'm so grateful to have fishing in my life. Where would I be without it? I think, would I be sitting on the couch, drinking another can of cheap, shitty beer, smoking dope out of a bong, playing video games? I used to think you couldn't describe life in one word. I stand corrected. You can. It's called existing. I just described it, So many people we know, and you know some of them. I know you do. They usually tend to be a little wealthy. They got a lot more than other people do. And they have a zero joy in their life. They ain't got dog shit. Nothing. The only thing they think about, and the only thing they talk about is legal tender and more of it. Mm-hmm. You got no joy. I worked for one guy, I won't say his name, he's dead now. He was a good man, he was good to me. He had 147 employees. He was miserable. Miserable. I never seen the guy smile. He was good to me, but he knew who his go-getters were. And I learned a lot from him. Some he didn't intend to teach me, but I learned just the same. Oh, about the pork. And with a pork frog, I surprised myself. Again, tying flies, freshwater flies, saltwater flies, etc. Taking the rear hook off my needlefish or any bait, you start, crystal flash and bucktail and, all kinds of stuff. And rabbit fur. They got these 2 millimeter glass beads in fly tying shop, 2 millimeter. They're small. It's like 2 little lead balls in there. And they're teardrop shaped. You can take a pork frog. I surprised me. I didn't think it would work, but I tried it. I couldn't believe how easy it was. Lay the pork frog down. Take the knife, that little Victorinox, any little sharp knife, a little paring knife, and make a little stab mark. You can take the 2 millimeter and stick it in the little tiny hole you made. Then put the knife on the flat and push it forward. I know you don't sound like it. This sounds reasonable. Trust me. Right into the pork frog. You can put one on each side. Hold pig pork rind. Shake it, and it rattles like mad in your ear. And it won't come out. And they'll slide right in there. You'd be amazed how easy they push in. And, of course, with the plastic, even easier. But I've caught more bass on jigging pigs than anything. And probably even, especially bigger fish. Fish over 4 pounds. Oh, yeah, the jigging pig.
Yep. The jig adds,
You know?
I mean, you've heard people say the jig adds like a pound to your average size fish because you kind of get away from the little buck fish. I don't want to say a median fish is probably 2.5 pounds on a jig, but it absolutely,
Big fish
Oh,
bait.
it's an upsize, yeah.
Yeah.
It's an absolute upsize.
You know, and
Now,
if
do you
you
use
have
them
a
a lot in the
cold,
winter?
if you have a cold,
I'll let him go and then I'll give you the,
you have a cold
What I
front
do
come
down
in
this way.
overnight.
Yep.
You know you should be finesse fishing. You know, here's a little. You learn everything throughout your lifetime. You learn a little bit from here and there. A different fisherman, you see somebody do something, you read it in the magazine, you saw a picture, you saw a video. There's a multitude of reasons how you could learn things. I don't remember how or where it was I learned this. It's just one of those things. Zoom trick worm. Abu Garcia Mitchell 300. It came out in April 1967. Yeah. But the Zoom trick worm, I believe it came out in 1981. It's unchanged. That's really something for a fishing lure to be unchanged since 1981. That's a long time. But you take an 1/8 ounce jig head and you cut the eye off and you cut the hook barb off and stick it in the head, just like so. You know, if you don't like the color, blacken it with a Sharpie or whatever. And usually I do it with the pumpkin and the chartreuse little tail. But I don't hook it through the tail. You hook it, this is only a little 2-aught Gamakatsu extra wide gap hook. But I hook it like so. And even though it's only 1/8 of an ounce, you know, if you've ever done any freshwater fly fishing, it is amazing to see how fast a tungsten bead Prince fly sinks. Depth charge. Right to the bottom. And this little squirt, this little Zoom worm in your basic, you know, watermelon, you wouldn't believe that 1/8 ounce, how fast this will sink. Because in Florida, we got the lily pad. The water be 12 feet deep, and the lily pads are like humongous. You know, they're huge. And in between the lily pads, and you can drop this little squirt right down to the bottom, and and unlike your shaky head where your head's at the bottom, now your hook is up at the top. What's the first part he's going to suck into his mouth? Yeah, you got it. You wouldn't believe the fish you catch with that. And, you know, and it's not much, you know, and if I lose one pegging it into the stomach, I don't care. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm more about, you can tell this is an owner hook just by looking at how heavy the gauge of the wire is. It's amazing when you watch a little bit of video of musted fish hooks in Oslo, Norway, that it starts with this great big giant roll of wire. And I mean wide, fat, and how fast they turn it. And there it becomes, you can tell that's an owner hook by the gauge of the wire, whereas Gamakatsu's much finer than that. And how do you say that other? Daiichi?
Yeah.
Daiichi?
Daiichi, I think. Yeah.
I can't pronounce nothing, but I think I know what I'm talking about. They make a really nice hook too.
Daiichi, maybe? Daichi.
I don't know.
I think.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they were the
nice.
first to come out with the
But
red
you were
lines.
asking about the jigs, Jimmy. And then, so let's you guys fish enough. You have your things you do. You have your things you do. But it's like right now I'm starting to see the largemouths are starting to come up shallow again. There's bait fish in the ponds. There's bass fry that have hatched. There's perch that have hatched. And I'm seeing them nosing up into what's left of the grass. And then just as far as jig goes, my approach to bass fishing for the rest of the year now is I usually I call it clearing the room. Like you come into an area where you think there might be a big fish and you throw the swim bait first.
Cutting the grass.
Come in and throw the swim bait in there first, or whatever you think you might get your biggest fish on. I call it clearing the room. If I come into a cove and I think there might be something in there, I'll clear the room with the psycho gill or some, whatever your favorite swim bait is. And then you pick with the jig. So you kind of like splat. If there's anybody around, they're going to come up and check it out. And then if they're glued to the structure, this is kind of what I learned from talking to people and listening to Matt Allen and whatnot. But the sequence of largemouth bass right now is they're still on grass because there's still grass in the pond. And then and even Bill Cute kind of told me this too. He's like, as the grass starts to die back, there's going to be isolated patches of grass and stuff and this and that. He goes, they're going to go to that stuff and you punch jig. I'm not really good at it. Like he kind of schooled me on it. He's like, yeah, you just have to do it. And you look for the remnants of the grass that are left.
The good grass.
A lot of times, yeah, they'll be sitting.
You'll catch a bunch of dead grass on your jig, and then all of a sudden you'll get some green stuff, and it's like that's when you're in the right.
Green means oxygen.
Yeah.
And then, another real smart dude, Dan Southwick, told me, he's like, crank the edges of the grass as it burns off in the fall, because he's like, the fish are going to come back to the grass. And then the sequence of events for largemouth that I've learned is the grass burns down and then they go to the wood. So if there's any wood, it's almost like grass wood rocks or grass wood deep water.
That's the hierarchy of
structure.
structure
Yeah, it kind
to
of
a bass.
seems like that's what happens.
Okay.
And then if you look at all my pictures, if I showed you my entire picture roll on here, this was something I observed, not something I invented, is all my biggest fish are all between... You guys that fish at night might say, I like the night better. 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. is the window when the biggest fish in the pond are going to hit. And this is what I learned from listening to Butch Brown and Doug Hannon. They both have pretty interesting ideas on why that is. But if you watch the Butch Brown videos, he's like, I don't hurry to the lake. I let everybody get out there and do their thing and this and that. And he's like, one of the biggest determining factors on getting your biggest bass, largemouth bass in the pond, is not having the moon present in the sky. So whether it means clouded up or moonset or whatever have you, he's like, when the moon's out of the sky, you're going to have the shot at getting the biggest fish in the lake.
I've heard muskie guys say that, like when the moon's under your feet, like what's on the other side of the earth, that's when the muskies bite.
Yep.
I don't know why that would be.
And if you go back to the... what I was talking about earlier with the moons and the tides being constant, on the full moon, the moon sets, I think I don't have the chart in front of me, but I think it sets at 5 o'clock in the morning. So now you get out there at 5 o'clock in the morning, the moon's down. It's not visible in the sky. And sometimes you'll get a trigger in the afternoon when the moon rises, and you might get a little bite right before the moon rises. And then the nighttime, it doesn't apply. Like the guys that fish at night, get them at night. And I can't tell you what to do at night because I don't need to. I get most of my fish in the daytime. But I watch all the moon periods, and you watch for moonset. And if you're fishing around a lake and you know the moon's going to be setting at like 1:30, I always go to the spot in the lake where I think the biggest fish is. And I'm telling you, most of my big 6 and 7 pound fish, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 12:30, 1 o'clock, right in the middle of the day. And here's what Doug Hannon says about it,
We all know who he is.
Yeah, we know the bass professor. And he says oxygen levels are higher in the middle of the day because the sun's overhead hitting the plants. The water's more oxygenated. The fish are more active because of the oxygen present. And he also says the biggest fish in the lake, they have those big bug eyes on top of their head. And he said they're very selective in what they hit. And they utilize the high light period as an opportunity to observe what they're going, they want to see what they're going after. And Butch Brown said the same thing about fishing the depths 250 in those clear lakes. He goes 9 a.m. He goes, if you took 90% of the big fish I've caught, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and go home. But it'll happen when the moon's down. It's going to happen when the moon's not present.
How
in the
many
sky.
depths 250s did you own at one time? Tell them.
I had a handful of them, and I
Had
found
6
one.
of them.
Yeah, I found one that I had a couple
$250
trout.
a piece. You had 6 or 7 of them.
But I'll give you a secret on one. The one that I do the best on the Cape, Carver, Plymouth. It's translucent, like the you know the mega bass, the matte shad color, like the jerkbaits color.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
an amber see-through color, and this thing is almost the same color. It's got an amber skin on it, and it's called Golden Shiner. It's a Golden Shiner, depths 250. And I don't know if this is the deal breaker on that lure, but I take a red Sharpie and I paint the pectoral fins red. As the thing's going overhead, does it add a little bit extra to it? I can say that sometimes it probably does.
Probably.
And I'll drag the 250 on that lake I was telling you about earlier, almost like clockwork. I'll fish around the lake in the daytime, and I'll work my way back to the place where I think the biggest fish in the pond is, 12:30, 1 o'clock, and I'll throw the 250 over that spot. And I have some like big hogs.
That's awesome.
Huh?
Bill, my teeth are floating. I've had a large coffee and I've drank all my water. I have to hit the head right now. I appreciate you coming in. That was awesome.
Look,
Thanks
if
for the
you came over
goodies.
my house and you saw how many of them I had, you'd ask for extras.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it was
Pleasure.
fun.
You guys, thank you.
Thanks
We're
very
so
much for
happy to
having
be
me on.
here.